Liam's tone shifted. He closed the contract folder and looked at Carl Sawyer. There's just one thing, Carl. The amount of that $50 million that actually ends up in your pocket is going to be pretty slim. As long as there's a solution that keeps me from paying that breach of contract penalty, I don't care, Carl said, his face alight with hope as he stared at Liam. Liam considered it for a moment. I remember there being at least 7 other food processing plants in the Boston area. Add yours to the mix, and you've got a workforce of nearly 1,000 people. If you all work together, I'm sure you can get it done in 7 days. Carl's eyes went wide. Are you telling me to subcontract the order? It was so much easier talking to smart people. Seeing the dawning realization on Quinn's face, Liam knew the manager hadn't grasped it until just now. He nodded. Exactly. It's an order from Zenith Corp. I doubt any factory would turn it down. It'll be a lot of work for you, though. You'll have to do some running around for the next few days. No problem at all. Carl agreed instantly, clapping Liam on the shoulder with excitement. You're the man with the ideas, Liam. I never would have thought of this. He turned to Quinn. What are you standing there for? Get the car ready now. Right away. Quinn scrambled, and the two of them hurried out. Liam settled back into his station. The workload had clearly increased, but his specific tasks remained the same, so it wasn't too strenuous. Following Liam's advice, Carl quickly organized a dinner meeting with the heads of the major neighboring factories. He dangled the Zenith Corp order as the main draw. As soon as the word got out, not only did the 7 local factories show up, but several from the next county overcame as well. Carl, I never thought you'd share a job like this with us. Yeah, the chance to work with Zenith Corp is a huge honor. You're a real one for this, Carl. Here, Carl, my friend. I'll drink to you. Next time something like this comes up, just shoot me a text. We can do the contracts electronically. Say no more. My factory guarantees we'll hit the target. You can count on us. Over the course of a single meal, the problem was solved. As Carl breathed a sigh of relief, he felt a wave of gratitude. Thank God it was a Zenith order. In this economy, who wouldn't want to partner with a corporate giant? Zenith was one of the top 3 corporations in New York City. If it had been any other company, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Mr. Sawyer, I ran the numbers, Quinn said from the passenger seat. He'd been calculating revenue since they left the restaurant, knowing he'd messed up earlier. After accounting for the subcontracted portions, our factory alone stands to clear a profit of $750,000. Excellent. A massive grin split Carl's face. He usually only cleared a couple $100,000 in a quarter. His best ever was $280, not even breaking $300. Now, he was about to make almost 2 quarters worth of profit in a single week. What more could he ask for? And it was all thanks to Liam. Carl was deeply moved. Liam was just so damn competent. Leagues better than that useless Jason Hamilton. Sure, Liam was adopted, but to kick someone this talented out of the family. The Hamiltons had to be blind. The other factories, spurred by the news, had all of their machinery recalibrated and ready within a day. They were all in the food processing business and had plenty of raw materials on hand. Normally, they were fierce competitors, but now, they were united, all striving for a common goal. None of them wanted to miss this rare opportunity to work with Zenith. Even though they were subcontractors, Zenith had never partnered with a food processor before. Sawyer Snacks was the only one they'd chosen, and Carl had not only shared the opportunity, but was also paying them their full share up front. No delays. As long as they met the deadline, every factory would walk away with a hefty profit. To ensure quality, the factory owners didn't skimp. They collectively raised the temporary wage for the rush job, bumping it to $30 an hour. The workers, hearing the news, were ecstatic, their movements becoming swift and efficient. The next day, the factories in the Boston suburbs entered a state of intense production, all racing to meet the deadline. The name Carl Sawyer became legendary in the industry overnight. Friends and foes alike praised his generosity. With more than a dozen factories working in concert, the entire order was prepared in just 5 short days. On the very day the goods were packed and shipped to Zenith Corp's designated warehouse, Liam received the email with the DNA test results. The report read, the probability of the 2 subjects sharing a direct kinship is 99%, which meant Khloe Sias was his biological sister. Staring at his phone, Liam's eyes widened. He couldn't believe it. A sudden impulse, a wild guess, and he had actually found her. It was all happening too fast. He couldn't quite process it. After all these years, he had assumed his birth parents were long gone. But if this was real, why did they put him in foster care? Was the family really so poor they couldn't even afford to feed him? If that was the case, why have him in the first place? Liam closed his eyes, a pang of anguish shooting through him. His newfound desire to just lie flat and coast through life was being rocked to its core. He desperately wanted to ask Khloe's parents why. Why'd they do it? No, I'll go right now. Just as Carl Sawyer was heading to Liam's dorm, planning to invite him out to celebrate the successful order and express his gratitude, Liam announced he was leaving. Carl didn't press him. He never expected Liam to stay long-term anyway. All right, my friend. I won't get sappy, but I owe you one. I sent some money to your account. Take it. It's your wages, plus a thank you bonus from me. Liam was in a hurry to find Khloe and barely heard him, just nodding distractedly as he walked away. Seeing Liam's dazed, lost expression, Carl felt a pang of sympathy. Not only had Liam helped him out of a massive jam, but the factory's recent live streams had brought in a fortune, and for the first time in his career, the neighboring factories were working together in harmony. This was a joint victory for all the smaller guys. Liam had brought him so much good fortune. He had to do something. As Liam's figure grew distant, Carl shouted after him, "Hey, Liam, keep in touch. If you ever need anything, just call. I'd go through hell and high water for you, brother." He didn't hear a reply, but he saw Liam raise a hand in a brief wave. Carl sighed and turned to leave. Once he was outside the factory, Liam opened his messaging app. He tapped on the chat with Khloe, and his heart trembled when he saw her name. "This is my sister." With a storm of complex emotions swirling inside him, he typed out a message. "Khloe, where are you right now?" Seeing a message from Liam for the first time, Khloe replied almost instantly. "I'm at home. My mom's having another episode, so I'm taking care of her." Mom, another episode. The word stabbed at Liam's heart like needles. He felt no connection to these people, couldn't even articulate his own feelings right now. His only goal was to find out why they had given him away. He hesitated, then typed, "I need to talk to you about something. Can you send me your address?" A moment later, a map pin from Khloe appeared, followed by another message. "What's up, brother Liam?" Liam didn't answer. Following the location, he hailed a cab outside the factory and headed for Quincy General Hospital. He stood outside a room on the 7th floor inpatient wing. He wasn't nervous. He was calm. He knew that once he pushed open this door, all the questions about his past would be answered. To be honest, the thought of finally learning his origins sparked a flicker of excitement. He shook his head, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open. It was a private room. Khloe was sitting by the bed, holding a bowl of broth. On the bed lay a gaunt woman, her face haggard and her body so thin she looked skeletal. It was clear she had been suffering for a long time. Liam's eyes flickered. The woman on the bed was so frail he could hardly see any resemblance to himself. He even began to doubt if she was truly his biological mother. Hearing the door, Khloe turned. A bright smile spread across her face when she saw Liam. "Brother Liam, you're here." She put the bowl down and leaned close to her mother's ear, whispering, "Mom, the brother Liam I told you about is here. Just a minute, okay?" On the bed, Carol Sia's eyes were listless, but she slowly turned her head toward the door. When her gaze landed on Liam, a hint of warmth entered her vacant eyes. "You must be Liam," she said. Her voice was surprisingly gentle, carrying an air of grace and refinement that seemed at odds with her frail appearance. Even Liam was taken aback by her tone. He couldn't imagine a woman with such poise coming from a small town. He gave a polite nod. "Hello, ma'am. I'm a colleague of Khloe's." His composed, respectful demeanor earned a flicker of approval in Carol's eyes. "Thank you for helping Khloe last time. I'm always so worried about her being in the city by herself. It's a relief to know you're there." As she spoke, she seemed to remember something else, her eyes lighting up as she looked at Khloe. "Your brother would surely scold you again. You, young lady, running out to drink late at night." Liam froze. Brother? Didn't Khloe say her brother had been lost when he was very young? Had he been found? No way. Could someone still be trying to impersonate him at a time like this? Her brother? Liam asked quickly. Yes, her brother is at home. He's just so busy with work, we never have time to see him. Otherwise, I would have introduced you too, Carol continued. Beside them, Khloe's face grew pale. Mom, she cut in, brother Liam and I have some work things to discuss. I'll be back to feed you in a little bit. Okay. With that, she stood up and pulled Liam toward a corner of the room. Liam was completely bewildered. He was standing right here. Where did this other brother come from? He couldn't hold back any longer. Didn't you say your brother was lost a long time ago? Khloe seemed surprised that Liam was so interested in her family affairs, but she trusted him completely and told him everything. Yes, my brother was lost and hasn't come back yet. My mom, her mind hasn't been right for a while. The last time, when we were celebrating his birthday, I came home late and it triggered an episode. She just became lucid again the day before yesterday, and now she's like this. Khloe's face was filled with guilt. The doctor said my mom is suffering from delusions brought on by grief. That's why she keeps thinking my brother has already returned. I see. Liam finally breathed a sigh of relief. He figured as much. He had only just found out himself, and he was just an ordinary guy now, who would waste their time impersonating him. But that brought him back to the original question. If she missed him so much it made her sick, why did she send him to foster care in the first place? The thought sparked a flame of anger. Gritting his teeth, he asked, "Can I talk to your mother for a moment?" "Of course." Khloe nodded without hesitation. "The doctor said it's good for her to talk to people." "Okay." Liam nodded and walked directly to the bedside. Seeing them approach, a smile appeared on Carol's face. "Are you two done talking?" Liam took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you." Khloe came to the bedside as well, picked up the bowl, and carefully blew on a spoonful of broth. "Go ahead," Carol said with a smile. Liam decided to be direct. "Ma'am, I heard from Khloe that her brother was lost when he was a child. Can you tell me what happened?" Khloe's hand froze instantly. She stared at Liam in disbelief. "Seriously, Liam? That's how you make conversation? By poking at someone's deepest wound?" Liam's expression was grim as he stared intently into Carol's eyes. He didn't care about anything else. He just wanted the answer to this question. If he didn't like the answer, he didn't care if he acknowledged this family tie or not. After all, they hadn't raised him, and right now, only he knew the truth. The power to choose was in his hands. The atmosphere in the room turned to ice. Khloe felt like she was suffocating. But Carol didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled and answered easily, "Oh, you mean Khloe's brother? He was born with a weak constitution. You see, a rare congenital blood disorder. So we had him stay with a private specialist to be cared for. He's all better now. Just came back not too long ago." Combining this with what Khloe had just told him about her mother's delusions, Liam knew that only part of Carol's story was true, but it seemed to fit together now. The Sias family said he was lost and that he had a blood disorder. The family that found him probably thought he'd be too difficult to raise and sent him into the foster system. Liam could finally piece the whole story together. "Wait, I have a congenital blood disorder? I don't think I even knew that." Liam raised an eyebrow. Even so, he felt no emotional connection to them. Seeing Carol's fragile state, he decided it was best not to tell her about his blood relation to Khloe. It would only shock her more. Besides, for now, only he knew the truth. Whatever happened, the choice was his. He wouldn't be at a disadvantage. He didn't ask any more questions. Seeing Liam's silence and his solemn expression, Khloe quickly tried to lighten the mood. "Brother Liam, the doctor said my mom can be discharged tonight. Why don't you come over to my house? I'll cook you a big meal." The words were barely out before Khloe instinctively bit her lower lip. Liam had always been hard to approach. She tried to invite him to dinner before, but he'd always refused. Asking so suddenly now, in front of her mother, felt like she was pressuring him. Thinking this, Khloe quickly tried to explain, "Brother Liam, don't get me wrong, I didn't mean it like that. I just..." Before she could finish, Liam's voice cut in. "Okay." Khloe's eyes widened in shock. Before she could recover, Liam added, "Is there anything I can help with?" "No, nothing." Khloe was thrilled. "After Mom finishes this I can take her home myself." She pumped her fist in the air excitedly. "Brother Liam, get ready for a feast tonight." Seeing her adorable enthusiasm, a faint smile touched Liam's lips. It wasn't so bad, having a sister with such a bright and innocent personality, and her invitation suited him perfectly. He wanted to see what her home was like. He waited on the chair next to the bed while Carol finished her drip. Under Khloe's care, Carol only managed half a bowl of broth before drifting off to sleep. Liam's brow furrowed. He remembered the note he'd seen on Khloe's phone. 25th birthday. So his real birthday had been just a few days ago. Khloe was only a year younger than him, which meant Carol had been celebrating his birthday for him since before Khloe could even remember. Maybe his disappearance had nothing to do with Carol after all. He suddenly felt that his earlier thoughts had been too cruel. But then again, after the life he'd had, it was impossible to feel empathy on command. He consoled himself with that thought as he watched Khloe pack up their things. Once she was done, she moved to wake the sleeping Carol. Liam was stunned. "You're just leaving like this?" Khloe paused. "Yeah, Brother Liam, you can wait here. I'll take Mom home first and then come back to get you." Liam's mouth twitched in disbelief. "You don't have a car?" "My car is back in New York," Khloe said automatically, then smiled. "It's okay, Brother Liam. My mom's mind is a little foggy, but she knows to hold on tight when she's on my scooter." Liam was speechless. This was absurd. A sick patient, going home from the hospital on the back of a scooter? He might not have known before, but now that he was right here, how could he possibly stand by and let that happen? Even as a friend, he had to do something. Liam stood up. "Don't wake her yet. I'll arrange a ride for you." Before Khloe could respond, Liam had already left the room. To borrow a car in the Boston area, he'd have to call Carl Sawyer. With that thought, he dialed Carl's number. "Carl, I need to borrow a luxury SUV. I'm sending you the location now. Carl was ecstatic to get a call from Liam. Without a second thought, he sent over a black Suburban, complete with a driver. Less than an hour later, the car arrived. Liam had Khloe grab their things while he lifted Carol into his arms. The moment he held her, his brow tightened into a knot. She was far too thin, as if she hadn't had a proper meal in years, just skin and bones. Her sharp bones dug painfully into his arms. His lips pressed into a thin line. He carried her to the elevator. Outside the hospital, he settled Carol carefully into the back of the SUV and got in with Khloe. As the car started moving, Khloe looked around the spacious interior with wide-eyed excitement, as if she'd never seen anything like it. Liam, however, remained silent, his expression grim. The car soon arrived at the P3.She neighborhood. Gazing out the window, Liam was a little surprised. He never would have guessed Khloe's family lived in such a modest, working-class area. But didn't she say she got into Zenith Corp through a connection? Soon, the car pulled up in front of a simple, two-story house. Liam carried Carol inside, following Khloe's directions. The house was decent, clean and well-kept, with all the necessary amenities. For this neighborhood, it was an upper-middle-class home. He followed Khloe to Carol's second-floor bedroom, laid her gently on the bed, and covered her with a blanket. Meanwhile, Khloe made several trips back and forth, bringing things in from the car. When Liam came back out to the living room, Khloe had just finished. She looked at him with immense gratitude. "Brother Liam, thank you so much for today." "It's nothing." Liam waved it off, suppressing his questions as he asked, "Is it just the two of you here?" "My grandparents are at the factory. They'll be back tonight," Khloe replied casually. Seeming to sense his confusion, she smiled. "Brother Liam, are you wondering how I got into Zenith Corp?" Liam nodded, a little surprised. Was he that obvious? "My grandfather asked a local business contact for a favor," she said, her eyes shining with admiration. "My grandpa is amazing. He started a factory right here in our community and got everyone involved. Now, our neighborhood is one of the county's biggest taxpayers." "That is impressive," Liam admitted, feeling a genuine sense of respect for her grandfather. He had led the Hamilton family before. He knew how difficult that was, let alone doing it in a less developed community. "Okay, Brother Liam, my mom's asleep for now, so we can go get groceries," Khloe said, dangling a set of keys with a grin. "Come on, I'll give you a ride on my scooter." "All right." Liam sat on the back of Khloe's electric scooter. With a twist of the handle, he lurched backward as the scooter started off with a clatter down the gravel path. Subcontracting. It was exactly the kind of move he would make. A muscle in Cassandra Thorne's jaw twitched as she read the report from Evelyn Reed. There was no way to salvage the $50 million order now. "Distribute it as a bonus to the various departments," she commanded. Reading Evelyn's reply, Cassandra's eyes narrowed. This wasn't working. It was the second time now. No matter what trap she set, Liam would find some unconventional, underhanded way to solve it. She truly hadn't expected him to have so many ruthless tricks up his sleeve. It made it impossible to get any leverage on him. If she let this continue, he'd probably start to think he had her figured out. More importantly, she'd been feeling an emptiness inside her for the past 2 days. Seeing clips of his 24-hour live stream go viral, watching those women frantically shower him with gifts. It made her unreasonably angry. Angry that he would expose himself to those women. Angry that he was making her feel this way. He wasn't even here. Perhaps that was the problem. Because he wasn't here, this wasn't how it was supposed to be. She was the one in control. She would not allow Liam to turn the tables on her. "Is he still at the factory?" Cassandra typed, sending the message to Evelyn. The reply came quickly. "No, he left yesterday. Palmer said he went to visit Khloe Sia's mother, and then went to Khloe's house." Khloe Sia again. Fire practically leaped from Cassandra's eyes. Did he not know she could monitor his every move? Was he doing this on purpose, using Khloe as a shield to provoke her? After all this time, he was still so desperate to sever ties with her, even resorting to seducing other women. Damn it, what did Khloe Sia have that she didn't? How dare he run off to another woman's house in broad daylight? Unforgivable. Cassandra was livid. Send a team. Bring him back. If he was going to flaunt another woman in her face, he should have known the consequences. A disobedient animal needs to be caged and broken. Evelyn. Yes, Miss Thorne. A farmer's market in Quincy. Since they had a lot to buy, Liam and Khloe decided to split up to save time. Liam was in charge of the heavier items like fish and meat, while Khloe went for vegetables. After visiting 2 stalls, Liam was holding a sea bass and a carp when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He freed one hand and answered without looking. The sound of blaring club music blasted from the other end, followed by Penelopey Hamilton's voice. "Liam, what are you doing working in a factory?" Liam frowned. Hadn't he made himself clear last time? None of your damn business, he snapped, about to hang up. But the music on her end faded, and Penelope's voice rose an octave. What do you mean it's not your business? Everyone I study abroad with knows you're my brother. They've all seen the video of you in that factory. The entire international student circle is laughing at me. Her tone became demanding. You quit that job right now. And what's this about a live stream? Are you trying to humiliate me? Penelope was furious. She had just gotten her allowance, paid her tuition, and was finally enjoying a few days of peace. She'd gone shopping with some classmates, and before she could even buy anything, they'd cornered her, telling her she shouldn't buy such expensive things when her brother was working in a factory. Then they showed her the video. His security guard job was bad enough, but at least it was at Zenith Corp. Now, he was working in a factory. Every single person studying abroad was rich. She had worked so hard to cultivate the image of a wealthy heiress, and this one video had everyone thinking she was sucking the family dry. The way they looked at her now, with pity and contempt. She couldn't stand it. Penelope was about to explode. She couldn't even explain that Liam had been kicked out of the family. Too many people in her circle knew he was a major director at Hamilton Industries. Before, people envied her for having such a smart, capable brother. Now, she had no explanation at all. Hearing Penelope's commanding tone, Liam found it laughable. He had already left the Hamiltons. What he did was none of her business. By her logic, his very existence was a mistake. Was there anything more ridiculous in the world? He shot back with biting sarcasm. What? Did the great Miss Hamilton forget that I've already left the family? Even if you left, you can't do that kind of trashy job. Don't you know the study abroad circle is full of wealthy people? When you do things like this, where am I supposed to put my face? Still calling herself his sister. How pathetic. Liam laughed coldly. If you've got the power, then make me disappear completely. You've got no ability, but you're great at ordering people around. You used to live off my money, and now that I'm gone, what gives you the right to command me? After his tirade, he felt it still wasn't enough and added, why don't you try not asking the family for money? You're the one with the most damn problems. Without giving Penelope a chance to reply, he hung up. What a joke. He had no intention of causing trouble for the Hamiltons, but here they were, trying to order him around. How had he never realized what a shameless bunch of people they were? At that moment, Liam was immensely grateful he wasn't a Hamilton by blood. The thought of carrying their freeloading genes made him want to cut himself. Then again, if he had those genes, he probably wouldn't even realize it. Whatever. Groceries were more important. He stuffed his phone in his pocket and walked toward the butcher shop ahead. He spotted a pork leg hanging from a hook and was about to ask the butcher to cut and wrap it for him when a man's voice sounded from behind. Mr. Liam, please come with us. Liam turned to see a burly man standing behind him, flanked by two smaller guys. All three were staring at him menacingly. Where did these enemies come from? Sent by the Hamiltons? But I've never seen these guys before. Liam frowned. Who are you? The leader was surprisingly polite. He bowed his head slightly. Miss Thorne requests your presence. Liam understood instantly. They were sent by Cassandra. A joke. He was already out. Did she really think he'd go back with them? Tell your boss I'm busy right now. I don't have time. He turned away, ready to buy his meat and leave. But the man persisted. Mr. Liam, please don't make this difficult for us. Miss Thorne simply wants you to return with us. We ask that you please come along. Hearing this, Liam had the butcher wrap up the pork leg he'd chosen. While the butcher was busy, he thought it over. If Cassandra really wanted to harm him, this man wouldn't be so polite. This was just because her last attempt to corner him had failed, and she was out of options. From his tone, she probably didn't know about the DNA test yet. But with the Thorne family's resources, if she wanted to investigate, it was only a matter of time. Once she found out about his relationship with Khloe, things would get much more complicated. Liam weighed the pros and cons, and finally said, I can go with you, but the lead man's eyes lit up. But what? Liam held up the pork leg and pointed to the smiling butcher. Pay for this for me. Once I'm done with my shopping, I'll go with you. The lead man's jaw twitched. He pulled out his phone with a look of resignation. He had no choice. Before they left, Miss Reed had specifically instructed them to be polite to Mr. Liam and to not, under any circumstances, use force or harm him. And Miss Reed's orders were Miss Thorne's orders. Sir, how much more do you need to buy? Palmer asked, trailing behind Liam with two other men. All three were laden with 4 or 5 large bags each, filled with chicken, duck, fish, beef, and lamb. The rest was one thing, but the seafood wasn't cheap. King crab, bluefin tuna, blue lobster. This small town only had one luxury seafood shop, and Liam had completely cleared out their day's inventory. In a short time, they had spent nearly $15,000. Palmer's face had gone pale. Seeing Liam ignore him and eye a large refrigerator with a $5,000 price tag, Palmer nearly ground his back teeth to dust. Be very careful this time. As long as you can bring him back, agree to whatever he says. Remember, do not harm him or the consequences will be dire. Evelyn Reed's solemn words echoed in Palmer's mind. Usually, when he was sent to grab someone, it was a straightforward affair. He'd never been on a job like this. He had no idea what Miss Reed was thinking. Why not just knock him out and drag him back? This was costing him nearly a month's salary. This one will do, Liam said, patting the refrigerator lid with satisfaction. He pointed at Palmer. Hey, owner, wrap it up. He's paying. It was like they'd hit the jackpot. As Liam's group moved through the market, people on the street stared, their eyes wide. This small town had never seen anyone shop like this. The owner hurried over with a beaming smile. Right away, sir. Just fill out the address, and we'll have it delivered for you. Liam waved his hand magnanimously. Delivery? No need for that. I brought my own help. He looked at Palmer with a grin. My friend, sorry to trouble you. Time to start moving. Palmer's mouth twitched. He knew Liam was deliberately messing with him, but he had no choice but to call for more men. The shop owner was about to say the fridge was too bulky for 4 people to carry, but in no time, nearly a dozen burly young men arrived at the store. With everyone pitching in, they lifted the refrigerator and carried it away. After paying, Palmer asked with a pained expression, Sir, can we go back now? Seeing his cooperative attitude and lack of anger, Liam became even more certain that Cassandra didn't know about the DNA test. Otherwise, with so many men, they could have just knocked him out or used Khloe to threaten him into submission. He glanced at the bags in Palmer's hands and nodded. Fine, I'll give you the address. Have a few of your men deliver these things for me. Once they're sent, I'll go back with you. Having cleared the biggest hurdle, Palmer wasn't about to refuse such a small request. He nodded quickly. Done. You guys go now? Yes, sir. While he waited, Liam found a small diner and had a bite to eat. He had to keep his strength up. Once he was back in Cassandra's clutches, anything could happen. Just as he finished eating, Palmer's men returned. At the same time, a message from Khloe arrived. Brother Liam, why did you buy so many things? Where are you? You promised you'd try my cooking. Liam's expression darkened. He replied, Something came up. I bought a little extra to help your mom recover. I'll visit again when I have the chance. Khloe, okay. Disappointed after sending the message, Liam, true to his word, got into Palmer's car. Sir, we'll need to blindfold you and cuff your hands. I assume you have no objections? Palmer said politely as soon as he got in. Liam raised an eyebrow. I already know the way to Black Lake Manor. Is the blindfold really necessary? The cuffs he could understand. That incident where he choked Cassandra had clearly left a mark on her. But a blindfold was just redundant. Palmer shook his head. Sir, this time you're going to miss Thornswork Villa. She doesn't like outsiders knowing its location. Oh, a new location unlocked? A glint appeared in Liam's eye. As Cassandra's home, Black Lake Manor was heavily monitored, but a work villa would likely have less security. As for being blindfolded and not knowing the way, that wasn't a problem. As long as he could get behind the wheel of a car with a full tank, he could drive all over the city. He'd find a way out. Liam had no objections. Before getting in the car, he had hidden a small wire in the palm of his hand. Handcuffs were just a minor inconvenience to him. He held out his hands. Go on, cuff me. Palmer breathed a sigh of relief and gestured to the men on either side of Liam. Soon, Liam's eyes were covered with a blindfold, and shackles were placed on his wrists. The moment the lock clicked shut with a sharp ding, Liam's heart sank. Damn it, why did it make a sound? This wasn't an electronic lock, was it? A feeling of dread washed over him. But with his arms pinned and his eyes covered, he couldn't check. He could only take a deep breath and pray that Cassandra wasn't that clever. Sawyer Snack's food processing plant. Mr. Sawyer, if you are willing to fire Liam, the Hamilton family is prepared to offer you a partnership at a 50% discount on our logistics services. We can sign a contract right now. In Carl Sawyer's office, Isabelle Hamilton sipped her tea, one leg crossed over the other, her tone arrogant. But Carl was looking at her with open hostility. He'd wondered why the Hamiltons had rushed over in such a hurry. It turned out to be for this, to get him to fire Liam. What a joke. Liam was his good friend, who had just helped him out of a massive crisis. Everyone in the industry was praising Carl Sawyer's generosity, and Liam hadn't asked for anything in return, letting Carl take all the credit. Was he really supposed to stab a man like that in the back? Besides, Liam was already gone. But even if he were still here, Carl wouldn't stoop to something so low. Seeing Carl's silence, Isabelle assumed he was calculating the potential profit. She kindly laid out the numbers she'd crunched on the way over. Mr. Sawyer, let's assume you ship in bulk. The transport fee for one unit is at least $5. If we partner, the Hamiltons can cut that in half for you, to $250 per unit. While the individual numbers might not seem like much, we can offer a 3-year contract. You can calculate how much you'd save over that period. Isabelle lifted her chin, her face a mask of pride and satisfaction. This was the first time she had ever calculated something so meticulously. Her goal was simple: get rid of Liam. She had to do the math to make her case, and she was confident that with such a generous offer, Carl Sawyer would surely agree. But she never expected his reply. Carl's rejection was blunt and harsh. "Miss Hamilton, I cannot meet your request. Please leave." The smug look on Isabelle's face crumbled. She shot to her feet, incredulous. "Mr. Sawyer, what is the meaning of this?" Her voice was sharp, teetering on the edge of a shriek, like a fishwife starting a brawl. Carl sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. "It means exactly what I said. I won't backstab my good friend for a little profit." His words were pointed, a clear jab at the Hamiltons' own dirty deeds. Isabelle's face went white. It was one thing for her own family to know, but for an outsider who had nothing to do with them to get involved, this was a direct challenge to the Hamilton family. Her pleasantries vanished. She pointed a finger at Carl and spat. "My family just secured a contract with Zenith Corp. If the Hamiltons say the word, no one in New York City will dare take your contracts. I suggest you think this over carefully." It was a thinly veiled threat. While the Hamiltons weren't at the top of the logistics industry, they had influence, especially now that they were partnered with Zenith. The implication was clear. If you cross the Hamiltons, you cross Zenith Corp. To her shock, Carl burst out laughing. "Miss Hamilton, what a coincidence. My factory just finished a massive order for Zenith Corp ourselves. In fact, several factories in the area worked on it together. Do you really think we're short on logistics partners?" At his words, Isabelle's face drained of all color. This rundown factory worked with Zenith Corp? How did she not know about this? Seeing her expression falter, Carl sneered. "Miss Hamilton, I shouldn't get involved in your family matters, but let me give you a piece of advice. Don't burn your bridges. It's not a good way to live." He was practically calling the entire Hamilton family subhuman. But Isabelle was too stunned to process the insult. As she left the factory and got back in her car, she was still in a state of disbelief. Has Zenith Corp gone crazy, partnering with everyone? If she thought about it, all their recent partnerships were in places where Liam had been. Could it be? Had Liam really latched onto someone powerful at Zenith? No. For a major corporation to approve a contract, it had to go through the board of directors. At least, that's how it worked at Hamilton Industries. Even if Zenith was a top 3 company in NYC, they wouldn't be foolish enough to throw money around like that. It would never pass the board. It had to be a coincidence. And Carl Sawyer had said several local factories were now united. She couldn't make a move against them now. It seemed she would have to find another opportunity. Isabelle bit her lower lip. No matter what, she had to find Liam. He had to apologize for hurting Jason. "What do you mean my brother-in-law quit?" One group left, another arrived. Carl Sawyer rubbed his forehead, a headache blooming. He never knew his friend had so many associates. Now he had a girlfriend's brother and her parents to deal with. That's right. He resigned this morning. "He's not here," Carl said truthfully, sizing up Justin and his parents. Justin's heart sank, but he quickly put on a fawning smile and sidled up to Carl. "So, boss," he whispered, "did you happen to see what kind of car my brother-in-law was driving?" "Car? What car? Didn't he take the bus?" Carl asked, confused. "The bus." Justin's jaw dropped. "My brother-in-law is a legend. He's got a perfectly good Rolls-Royce, and he'd rather take the bus." Beside him, Karen slapped Justin on the shoulder, her face full of praise. "Justin, you need to learn from your brother-in-law. See how humble he is." "Exactly. When you're investigating a new market, you have to be discreet. Learn from him. You have to endure hardship to enjoy success." Frank added, nodding sagely. Totally. My brother-in-law is the GOAT." Justin chirped. Carl stared at the 3 of them as if they were morons. His factory might be in the suburbs, but it was still in the greater Boston area. It wasn't exactly a hardship post. Was this their definition of roughing it? A thought struck Justin. "Wait, Mom, Dad, how are we supposed to contact him now?" Karen froze, then looked hopefully at Carl. Before she could ask, Carl held up his hands. "He only worked here for 5 days. I don't have his contact information." Carl was convinced these 3 were operating on a different planet. And from the looks of it, his friend probably didn't want to be contacted by them either. Good for him. Carl wouldn't want to deal with this family of idiots either. Karen's face fell. "All right then." She tugged Frank's arm, and they left, with Justin trailing behind. The office was finally quiet. Carl sighed, poured himself a cup of tea, and typed out a full summary of the day's events to send to Liam. The drive took about 2.5 hours. It didn't take a genius to figure out they were back in New York City. After another 15 minutes, the car stopped. Liam heard the side door slide open, and he was helped out of the vehicle. He was supported on both sides as he walked, until his feet touched a smooth, polished floor. He knew he was inside Cassandra's villa. He felt an unnerving stillness in the air, a cold silence. He heard Palmer's voice. "Miss Thorne, mister. Liam has been brought back. What are your orders?" The silence was so complete you could hear a pin drop. Then, Liam heard the sound of liquid being poured quickly and a glass being set on a table. After those small sounds ceased, Cassandra's clear, cold voice cut through the air. "To the bedroom." The two words hit Liam like a physical blow. Before he could react, his arms were seized, and he was dragged toward a bedroom. He felt a shove and fell backward onto a bed. The next moment, there was a heavy clank beside him, the sound of a lock engaging. Then, the sound of footsteps retreating. The room fell silent again. Finally free from their grasp, Liam lifted his hands and tore off the blindfold. His eyes fell on a giant iron cage. He was sitting on a bed, and the bed was enclosed on all sides by metal bars. At the foot of the bed, in the small space between the mattress and the bars, sat two small bowls. It was a giant cat cage. Damn it. Cassandra was genuinely insane. Who in their right mind installs something like this in their house? He cursed under his breath, fumbling in his pockets for his phone, only to find it was gone. He gritted his teeth and tried to work the lock on his cuffs. When he looked down at his wrists, his heart stopped. Full titanium alloy electronic shackles. Without a doubt, Cassandra had designed them specifically for him. They were impossible to open without a code. In just a few days, her equipment had been upgraded. But Liam knew he couldn't just sit here and wait. If Cassandra didn't let him out, was he supposed to eat, sleep, and relieve himself in this cage? His gaze drifted to the two bowls at the foot of the bed, and his lip curled in disgust. How is this any different from keeping a pet? He was a living, breathing person. He would never willingly lie here and be her personal plaything. He got up and started examining the cage's lock. As expected, it was also electronic. He had no tools, only the single piece of wire he'd pocketed before getting in the car. Liam took a deep breath. He knew he couldn't panic. He analyzed Cassandra's motives. She just wanted to lock him up. But she'd tried that before, hadn't she? And after he'd negotiated, she'd agreed to let him go. If it worked once, it could work twice. With that thought, his emotions began to settle. Liam lay back on the bed, arms crossed, and stared intently at the bedroom door, waiting for Cassandra to appear. Minutes ticked by. Finally, he heard the click of the door lock. As the door opened, Cassandra strode in. She wore a black leather jacket, stiletto boots, and a belt cinched tightly at her waist. Her posture was seductive, her red lips pressed into a firm line as she walked toward him. Liam remained perfectly still, watching her. He couldn't be the first to speak. If she saw he was agitated, it would only fuel her satisfaction. Seeing Liam's calm expression, Cassandra paused, a slight smile playing on her lips. She casually pulled over an office chair, spun it around with a flick of her slender wrist, and sat down facing him, crossing her legs. She folded her arms, her eyes cold. Seafood, beef, lamb, chicken, duck, fish, and a refrigerator. Her voice was measured, making it impossible to tell if she was angry as she ticked the items off on her fingers. Liam's lips remained sealed. Cassandra continued her count, her eyes turning icy with a hint of cruel amusement. In just a short time, you spent $15,000. You really have some nerve. At that, Liam sneered. $15,000 is nothing to Miss Thorne, is it? Did she expect him to come back without getting something out of it? The cost of her daily tea was probably more than that. Of course it's nothing, Cassandra said, her eyes narrowing as she stared at him, suppressing her fury. If you were spending it on yourself, I wouldn't care. But all of those things were sent to the Sias family. That was the real issue. It seemed Cassandra truly didn't know Khloe was his sister. It made sense. She had said she'd pulled back her surveillance. Her people would only report back if she specifically asked them to investigate. Liam breathed a quiet sigh of relief. But in the next second, Cassandra shot to her feet. The sharp clack, clack, clack of her heels on the floor echoed like hammer blows in Liam's chest. He watched as she approached, stopping right at the edge of the cage. Liam's heart sank. He instinctively shuffled backward. The cage was large enough that as long as she didn't enter, she couldn't touch him. He had no intention of trying to grab her. Cassandra probably knew some self-defense, and if he failed, the consequences would be severe. Cassandra stared down at him, her eyes blazing with fury. She bit out each word through clenched teeth. You have gotten bold. How dare you use my money to buy things for another woman? Damn it. Liam's mouth twisted into a smirk. Since she couldn't reach him, his tone became defiant. Miss Thorne wanted me back. I had to get some perks, right? Besides, who I buy things for is none of your business. The more he acted like this, the angrier she became. Her pet, spending her money, was acceptable, but her pet spending her money on another woman, and then taunting her about it to her face. How could she not be furious? It seems I've been too good to you. You've forgotten your place, Cassandra hissed, her voice dropping to a glacial tone as she looked down at him through the bars. Liam was unfazed. If you have the guts, then kill me, he said, his voice flat. It's a worthless life, anyway. Better to be dead than trapped in here. He turned his head, staring out the window. This was his strategy. When she used force, he would adopt this attitude of utter indifference, rendering her powerless. In the end, his eyes held nothing for her. Cassandra was enraged, though she didn't know why. Seeing his dismissive posture ignited a fire in her. She desperately wanted to grab his chin, to force him to look at her, to make his eyes see only her. She craved the look of a man broken and pained by his inability to have her. The image flashed in her mind, making her heart race. The look of a man who would die without her, his eyes filled with a desperate, possessive need, begging her over and over, "Don't leave me." Hiss! She bit her lower lip sharply. The pain brought her back to reality, but it was replaced by a desire for even greater control. Cassandra took a deep breath. She knew she couldn't push him too far. Even a corner dog will bite back, let alone a man who seemed to have no fear of death. She clenched her fists, her eyes narrowing. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "I don't care anymore," Liam said calmly, a faint smile on his lips as he gazed at the beautiful scenery outside. "The first half of my life has been eventful enough." From the corner of his eye, she saw no trace of attachment to the world. As he spoke, he seemed almost ethereal, like a fleeting moment in time. So clear, yet impossible to grasp. An unexpected tightness seized Cassandra's chest. Damn it, how could you be feeling pity for him? She quickly crossed her arms, discreetly pressing against her rapidly beating heart. She had only just realized that he had, unconsciously, been pulling at her emotions. If she hadn't caught herself, she would have been led right by the nose. Composing herself, Cassandra's eyes darkened. She gave the languid, defiant Liam one last deep look and walked out of the room. As the door opened, Liam heard her cold command trail off. "Starve him for a week. Let's see if his mouth is still so tough after that." Oh hell, this wasn't just imprisonment anymore. This was straight-up torture. He thought Cassandra was crazy before, but he never imagined she had a sadistic streak like this. Alone in the room, he tried wrapping a pillowcase around 2 of the iron bars, twisting with all his might. Without a fulcrum or a hard object, he couldn't generate enough force. He struggled for what felt like an eternity, his hands raw and scraped, but the bars didn't budge an inch. Was he really going to starve to death in here? For a moment, Liam was glad he'd eaten at the diner before they brought him here. He had enough in his stomach to last maybe 2 days, but what about the other 5? He didn't even have his phone. How was he supposed to call for help? This woman was ruthless. He gave up and laid down on the bed, tried to conserve energy. 7 days. He'd hold out as long as he could. If he couldn't make it, then he'd leave it to fate. The Sias residence. When Khloe's grandparents, George and Martha Sias, returned home, they found a brand new refrigerator and a table laden with food. They were stunned. "Khloe, you should be saving your money. You've only been working for a few days, and you're buying such an expensive fridge? Do you have money to burn?" Martha scolded, pointing at the $5,000 price tag. George, however, was smiling. "Oh, Martha," Khloe meant well. "Don't be such a wet blanket. It's not that. She can be filial, but not like this. Carol is still sick. Who knows how much her medical bills will be in the future," Martha said, her tone softening as she sighed. Khloe rubbed the back of her ear, embarrassed. Grandma, I didn't buy it." "What? Then who did?" the 2 elders exclaimed in unison. "It was a colleague of mine, a really nice guy," Khloe explained quickly. "He came to visit me today, even arranged for a car to bring Mom home from the hospital. He bought all the food in the fridge, too." "And you didn't ask him to stay for dinner?" "Exactly, child. A man with such a good heart. You should have invited him to stay, so we could thank him properly." "It's not like that, Grandma. We had planned for him to stay for dinner, but something suddenly came up, and I didn't feel right pressing him," Khloe explained hurriedly. She didn't notice the knowing, almost conspiratorial glances her grandparents exchanged. The 2 sat down at the table. As they began to eat, Martha looked at Khloe with a sly smile. "Khloe, dear, tell your grandma honestly. What's this young man like? How's his family?" "Grandma," Khloe cried out, her face instantly turning beet red as she understood her grandmother's intentions. George chimed in from the side. "What's there to be shy about? You're not getting any younger. It's about time you started dating. Just tell us honestly. Your grandma and I are very open-minded. Khloe shifted uncomfortably, shoveling a small bite of rice in her mouth and chewing slowly. Seeing his granddaughter's silence, George's expression turned worried. Khloe, is it because of your mother? Has her situation affected you? He nudged Martha with his elbow. Martha caught on immediately. You know, your mother wasn't exactly unlucky in love. Your biological father was very good to her, even though he died young. She hadn't even finished before George jabbed her sharply in the ribs. But it was too late. Khloe had heard. She dropped her chopsticks, her eyes wide with disbelief. He's dead. Martha shot a glare at George, who clapped a hand over his mouth. She sighed. Well, the child is grown now. It's time she knew some things. She turned to Khloe. Your biological father's name was Victor Lynn. He was a special forces captain stationed abroad. He and your mother were college sweethearts. They didn't see each other often, and then, during one of his missions, she trailed off, as if lamenting the cruelty of fate and her daughter's tragic life. Just speaking of it brought tears to her eyes. Khloe couldn't believe what she was hearing. She shot up from her chair, her voice trembling with anger. Then what you said before, about him sending me money every year for living expenses. Was that a lie? Was it you? No. George shook his head, sighing. Your mother was from our community. The Lynn family looked down on her background. But your parents were deeply in love and got married in secret. It was only after your father passed that his family found out about you. To keep your mother quiet, the Lynn family sends money every year. Your grandfather and I took the money, Martha explained, but we never spent a penny of it. We've saved it all for you. She added a final instruction. Khloe, don't think you can't spend this money. You are Victor Lynn's flesh and blood. You have a right to his family's money. George sighed again. If you want to go and meet them, we won't stop you. You're an adult now. You should make your own decisions. Hearing her grandparents' story, Khloe's mind went blank. The Lynn family. She had never even heard the name. She had always thought that even without a father, she had her grandparents, and while life had been tough, things were finally looking up. But now, all these secrets were coming out. Her grandfather was talking about meeting them, and a deep-seated panic bloomed in her chest. Grandpa, Grandma, Khloe stood frozen, her nose tingling as tears welled in her eyes. A sob caught in her throat. You're not getting rid of me, are you? She was terrified. She was afraid that after telling her all this, they would say they had raised her and their job was done. She didn't want to meet any new family. She didn't want to leave this place. A family that gave birth to her but didn't raise her. Why should she go back to such heartless people? Of course not. Martha was stunned. She rushed to Khloe and wrapped her in a hug. My sweet granddaughter, that's not what we meant at all. The sudden embrace broke the dam. Khloe burst into tears, clinging to her grandmother and sobbing uncontrollably. I don't want to leave you, she mumbled between gasps. You worked so hard to raise me. Now, it's my turn to take care of you. I don't want to leave. I don't want to meet any relatives. They had never expected Khloe to react this way. George's stern face softened, and his own eyes reddened. Don't worry, granddaughter. As long as your grandma and I can still work, we'll never let you and your mother suffer. After a long cry, Khloe's emotions finally settled. She put some food on her grandparents' plates and was wiping her eyes when her grandmother spoke again. Khloe, dear, now that we've cleared the air, when are you going to bring that young man home for us to meet? Khloe had just managed to stop crying. Hearing this, her mouth twitched. Oh, that boy works at your company too, right? If things work out, you two could build a life together. Your grandpa, and I can help with a down payment for a house. You could settle down in New York City. Wouldn't that be wonderful? She's right. Khloe, don't you worry. Even though your mother is sick, we've already set aside money for your future. As long as that boy is good to you, that's all that matters. We can be flexible about everything else. Seeing her grandparents getting more and more carried away, Khloe couldn't take it anymore. Grandpa, Grandma, we're just colleagues. Besides, I don't even know if he's interested in me. Khloe bit her lip, Liam's cool, distant expression flashing in her mind. But then she remembered how he had swooped in to save her that night, and her cheeks flushed. She never thought something out of a TV drama would happen to her, and that her rescuer would be Brother Liam. An indescribable feeling welled up inside her. She ate her food in silence, her cheeks burning. Seeing this, Martha and George exchanged a look. They'd been around the block. They knew a schoolgirl crush when they saw one. This girl was head over heels. Martha put a piece of meat in Khloe's bowl, smiling. Khloe, dear, find a time to invite him over for dinner. If for nothing else, we have to properly thank him for all these groceries. That's right. That stuff costs thousands of dollars. We can't be ungrateful. Khloe took a bite of meat and nodded silently. Martha and George smiled, satisfied, and a warm atmosphere filled the room. Thirsty, Liam clutched the blanket, licking his dry lips. He'd eaten lunch and had a soda, and now his mouth was parched. Of course, sugary drinks never quench your thirst. Liam licked his lips again and stared at the impossibly strong iron bars. He took a deep breath. The first day wasn't even over, and he'd almost forgotten that he would get thirsty. He pulled the blanket tighter around himself and gazed at the dark sky outside, closing his eyes. Whatever. I'll just sleep for now. This is the company's financial report for the week. Miss Thorne? Miss Thorne. Evelyn Reed was in the middle of her report. She had just finished her summary, but on the video call, her boss was just sitting there staring into space. Evelyn had to call her name a few times. HM. Cassandra blinked, her gaze returning to the screen. I've compiled the weekly revenue and next week's business plan into a document and sent it to your email. Evelyn took a deep breath and repeated herself. It was like she was talking to a ghost. Her boss, spacing out during a work call. The company is operating normally with a 5% increase over this time last year. She finished her lengthy report again, then took a large gulp of water to wet her throat. The next words out of Cassandra's mouth made her spit it right back out. How many days has it been since Liam was brought back? Evelyn stared, dumbfounded. She was reporting on work, and Miss Thorne was asking about Liam now. Wasn't he locked in her bedroom? Evelyn quickly counted on her fingers. 3 days, I think. As of noon today, it will be exactly 4. Oh, Cassandra replied flatly from the other side of the screen. Then she asked, Evelyn, tell me, how long can a person survive without food and water? I've never tried. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. But with just water, about 7 days. And without going to the bathroom. Evelyn carefully studied Cassandra's expression on the screen, trying to read her, but came up with nothing. This wasn't right. Why was Miss Thorne asking about Liam at a time like this? As she was pondering this, she heard Cassandra's voice again. Evelyn, do you think I'm cruel? Her voice was devoid of warmth, as if she were talking about a complete stranger. Based on her deep understanding of Cassandra, Evelyn immediately shook her head. No, not at all. I think Miss Thorne is the kindest person in the world. It's Liam who is being ungrateful. It was a stupid question. Of course, she wouldn't say anything bad to her boss's face. But still, not letting someone eat or drink. Miss Thorne was definitely being a bit extreme. Evelyn swallowed hard, sneaking a glance at Cassandra's expression. It hadn't changed much, but there was a new flicker of anger in her eyes. She turned her head, looking directly at Evelyn, as if she were about to reach through the screen and strangle her. Did I say the wrong thing? Evelyn's heart plummeted. She stammered, Miss Thorne, actually, I don't think simply starving him is the answer. Sometimes, stubborn people don't respond to that kind of pressure. And over time, he'll only grow to hate you. It was something she'd learned from her psychology minor in college. Constant pressure only leads to mutual destruction. But pressure combined with small acts of kindness. Over time, the subject not only gets used to it, but becomes grateful for the scraps they are given. This time, it seemed she had struck a chord. Cassandra's eyes narrowed with interest. Then what do you suggest I do? Evelyn took a deep breath, cautiously observing Cassandra's expression. She felt like her boss was trying to lead her to a specific conclusion. She thought for a moment. Perhaps, let him out to use the restroom. If he's obedient, Miss Thorne could reward him with a little something to eat. That had to be what she wanted to hear, right? Evelyn wasn't sure. She saw Cassandra frown slightly on the screen, but after a moment, she said, You handle it. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn finally let out a long breath. She glanced at the financial reports in her hand and tossed them aside. Who had time for work at a time like this? She immediately left her office and drove to Cassandra's townhouse. The villa was silent. Miss Thorne was probably in her master suite. Evelyn took a deep breath and pushed open the door to the bedroom on the right, the one where Liam was being held captive. The moment she opened the door, she saw Liam lying on the bed, his face deathly pale. His hands were folded on his stomach, and the rise and fall of his chest was almost imperceptible. He looked like he was at death's door. Panicked, Evelyn immediately ordered Palmer to open the cage. She rushed forward and reached out to check for a pulse. But in the next second, her wrist was seized. A powerful force twisted her body around. In a dizzying spin, she found herself pinned down by the man who had looked half dead just a moment ago. He must have been starving because he used the last of his strength to throw his entire body on top of her. Even so, his 6'3" frame was enough to crush the air out of her lungs. Holy crap, this guy is incredible. Palmer was stunned. He had personally brought this man in. It had been a full 4 days. How did he still have the strength to fight back? Evelyn had never encountered anything like this. Shocked, she yelled at Palmer. What are you standing there for? Get him off of me. Her shout snapped Palmer out of his stupor. He lunged forward, grabbing Liam's shoulders and forcibly pulling him up. But while he managed to lift Liam's body, Liam's hand remained clamped around Evelyn's wrist like it was sealed with superglue. Even with both of them pulling, they couldn't pry his fingers open. Evelyn's wrist felt like it was about to break. "Liam, let me go," she cried out. "Miss Thorne is letting you out." Liam said nothing, his eyes squeezed shut, but his grip didn't loosen in the slightest. It was as if he was determined to take someone down with him. Tears of pain welled in Evelyn's eyes. This was Miss Thorne's special project. She couldn't risk hurting him. She looked at Palmer, desperate. "Go to the next room and get my medical kit." "Yes, ma'am." Palmer scrambled out of the room. A moment later, he returned with the kit. Together, they supported Liam and moved him to a nearby sofa. "Can you let me go now?" Evelyn said, opening the medical kit with one hand. "I need to set up a glucose drip for you. I can't give you a shot if you're holding on to me like this." At her words, Liam's eyes cracked open a sliver. Seeing that he was out of the cage, his grip finally loosened. Evelyn quickly yanked her wrist free. An angry red mark was already forming where he'd held her, and she winced in pain. But compared to what Liam had been through, she could only sigh. The man in front of her was the real victim here. She rubbed her wrist for a moment, then began preparing the four. After inserting the needle and setting up the drip, she stood up and said to Palmer, "Get a few men to watch him. Give him a bath later. I'm going to report to Miss Thorne." "Understood." Palmer nodded, casting a sympathetic glance at Liam before pulling out his phone to call for backup. After nearly 40 minutes on the drip, Liam's strength began to return. He scanned the room. Palmer and another man were standing at the bedroom door. His eyes darted to the window. If he was going to escape, now was the perfect time. But his body felt like it was filled with lead. He could barely lift his arms. When the four bag was empty, he saw Evelyn come in and remove the needle. Then Palmer and a few other men helped him to his feet and guided him to the bathroom. They didn't make it difficult for him. Seeing that he had regained enough strength to stand on his own, they waited outside the door and let him wash up by himself. Finally being able to use the toilet, combined with the bottle of glucose, had helped. Other than a lingering dizziness, his body felt mostly fine, but he was ravenously hungry. He soaked in the bathtub, the steam rising around him. The world spun, and the dizziness intensified. He tried to stand, but his hands and feet slipped on the slick bottom of the tub. Splash! His body slid under the water. He felt paralyzed. Already weak, he couldn't even lift his arms now. His consciousness began to blur, and his breathing grew difficult. Am I going to die here? Whatever. Let happen. Death will be a release. But at this moment, he found himself genuinely curious to see the look on that crazy woman's face if he died. It would probably be interesting. A pity he wouldn't live to see it. Miss Thorne. Outside the bathroom, Palmer and his men stood at attention, staring straight ahead. Cassandra's eyes were cold as she glanced at the cage. Other than the messy blankets, everything was as it had been. "Miss Thorne, I've already ordered someone to cook some broth. Why are you all out here? Didn't I tell you to help him bathe?" Evelyn came rushing in, but stopped short when she saw Palmer and his men standing like statues at the door. Palmer scratched his head, explaining quickly. "Mr. Liam said he needed to use the facilities, and he had the strength to do it himself. Don't worry, Miss Reed. This bathroom only has one exit. My men and I are standing guard. Not even a mouse could get out." He even patted his chest confidently. This was the easiest job he'd ever had. "You idiots." Evelyn was so angry she was sputtering. She pushed past Palmer and knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. The sound seemed to echo in Cassandra's own heart. She snapped back to reality, her gaze sharp. "Evelyn, what is it?" "It's over, it's all over." Hearing nothing but the sound of running water from inside, Evelyn whispered in a panic. "Miss Thorne, Liam has been starving for 4 days. A person on the verge of starvation should never take a hot bath." The realization hit Cassandra instantly. She strode forward and kicked the door. With a loud thud, the bathroom door didn't move. And from inside, there was no sound but the running water. Seeing this, a true panic seized Cassandra. She whirled on Palmer and his men and roared. "What are you waiting for? Get that door open now." The men, stunned, immediately rushed forward. With a series of kicks, the solid bathroom door was smashed to pieces. Evelyn stood frozen in the doorway, not knowing whether to enter or retreat. Terrified of what she might see, she stepped to the side and glanced at Cassandra. "Miss Thorne." Before she could finish, she saw Cassandra rush in the bathroom. Palmer and his men started to follow, but Evelyn grabbed them. "Miss Thorne didn't give an order. We should wait here." This was a clear sign. Miss Thorne had definitely fallen for Liam, even if she didn't know it herself. It was better not to get involved. Matters of the heart were too complicated. Palmer and the others nodded, standing guard at the doorway without looking in. Rushing into the bathroom, Cassandra's eyes immediately fell on Liam, submerged in the tub. The foam on the water surface had risen above his nose, and he lay there, his face ashen, looking for all the world like a corpse. Damn it! He dared to try to kill himself. Cassandra was utterly panicked. She lunged forward, grabbed Liam's shoulders, and hauled his upper body out of the water. The next second, her voice, laced with fury and a panic she didn't even recognize herself, rang out. Liam, without my permission, you don't get to die. Liam's eyes were clamped shut, his body perfectly still. His face was a ghastly white, his thin lips completely drained of color. Cassandra felt her heart clench, a knot of terror tightening in her chest. The fear, born in that instant, spread like ice through her limbs. Her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Where is everyone? Evelyn, get your ass in here now. Her shriek, bordering on madness, echoed through the townhouse. Outside the door, Evelyn Reed flinched, then scrambled into the bathroom. She instinctively covered her eyes, terrified of what she might see. MMS. Thorn, Evelyn stammered, wanted to ask if Liam was decent. But her question was cut off by a furious roar. What are you waiting for? Help him. Cassandra snatched a thick bath towel from a nearby rack and tossed it into the tub. Evelyn peeked through a crack in her fingers. Seeing the mountain of bubbles in the towel, now covering Liam, she let out a sigh of relief. She rushed forward and pressed 2 fingers to Liam's neck, searching for a pulse. Cassandra swayed, her expression a mask of pure tension as she stared at Liam, her face a storm of conflicting emotions. The steam filling the bathroom did nothing to warm the Arctic chill radiating from her. She bit her lower lip, her face pale with panic, and stalked to the doorway. Outside, Palmer watched her approach, his heart pounding in his chest. He had never seen Miss Thorn this incandescent with rage. He withered under her glare, his voice trembling as he managed a weak MS. Thorn. Crack. She didn't give him a chance to finish. The sharp, clean sound of a slap echoed through the bathroom. Palmer clutched his cheek in disbelief, his head snapping to the side. When he dared to meet Cassandra's gaze, he quickly dropped his head in fear. The sting on his face was agonizing, but he didn't dare utter a word of complaint. He knew he had screwed up. He'd assumed that a man starved for 4 days was practically superhuman if he could still resist at all. He hadn't taken Liam's weakness seriously, completely forgetting he was just a man. How could he have let someone that starved take a bath alone? Palmer's knees gave out, and he dropped to the floor with a thud. The other guards, terrified by the scene, quickly knelt beside him. Ms. Thorn, it's my fault, Palmer said, his fists clenched. Punish me. Punish you. Cassandra's voice was as cold and unforgiving as a tomb, laced with boundless fury. You think you're worthy? Crack. Another slap, just as hard as the first. Palmer grunted, biting down on his back teeth to stifle a cry of pain. He kept his head bowed as Cassandra's voice, cold enough to freeze bone, washed over him again. If he's okay, we'll forget this. But if anything happens to him, I will personally end every single one of you. The words were a blade that plunged straight into Palmer's heart. He started to tremble. He knew she wasn't joking. As a member of the Thorn family security detail, he knew better than anyone how extreme their methods were for dealing with failure. It was one of the reasons the Thorns remained at the apex of power. You don't get to the top without being ruthless. Yes, ma'am, Palmer choked out. Now he understood why Evelyn had told him to be careful with Liam. This man was someone Ms. Thorn held in the very center of her heart. He bowed his head, praying with every fiber of his being that Liam would be all right. Palmer, quick, help me get him up. We need to get the water out of his lungs. Evelyn's urgent cry came from the bathroom. Palmer shot to his feet and rushed in. Fear of Cassandra's wrath sent a surge of adrenaline through him. He hauled Liam out of the tub with one arm and laid him on the bathroom's massage table. Turning him onto his stomach, he followed Evelyn's instructions and began delivering firm blows to Liam's back. You two, give me a glass of orange juice, a sugar cube, and bring the broth if it's ready. And my medical kit. Move. Knowing that Liam could not die on her watch, Evelyn took command. The guard scrambled to obey. Evelyn grabbed a pair of cotton swabs from her kit, pried Liam's mouth open, and used them to trigger his gag reflex. Gawk! As the swabs touched the back of his throat, Liam unconsciously retched, spewing a mouthful of water onto the floor. He's breathing. Thank God he's breathing, Evelyn murmured, continuing to pat his back. Seeing this, Cassandra's tense expression didn't relax in the slightest. The sight of Liam's colorless face made her bite her lip so hard she tasted blood. Damn you, Liam. You'd rather die than be with me. Is that how little you think of Cassandra Thorn? The more she thought, the angrier she became. Realizing how completely he dominated her emotions only fueled her rage. She had never wanted to possess someone this badly. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. You want to die? Not that easy. Not until I'm bored with you. And even then, I won't let you go. Cough. Hack. Liam, who had an empty stomach, coughed up more sour bile. Evelyn sighed in relief. Okay, he's clear most of it. Palmer, get a robe on him and carry him to bed. I need to give him at 4. Yes, ma'am. Palmer nodded, quickly wrapping Liam in a plush robe and hoisting him onto his back. As they entered the stark white room where Liam had been held, Evelyn's face grew serious. Ms. Thorne, he can't stay in here. When he wakes up, seeing this place again could cause a serious psychological setback. She braced herself for another outburst, but she had to say it. Ms. Thorne was already psychologically complex. The last thing she needed was to be responsible for breaking Liam completely. Cassandra tilted her head, her gaze shifting toward her own private wing. Take him to my room. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn breathed, relieved. She helped Palmer support Liam, and together they carried him into Cassandra's opulent bedroom. They laid him gently on Cassandra's enormous bed. Evelyn quickly administered an injection and set up an 4-drip. She then took the glass of juice a guard handed her and began spooning it into Liam's mouth. It wasn't easy. Liam's lips were clenched tight, and with the glass in one hand, she ended up spilling more juice onto his cheek and the silk pillowcase than into his mouth. Cassandra's patience snapped. She strode forward, snatched the glass from Evelyn's hand, and snapped. I'll do it. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn didn't dare object, instead helping to gently pry Liam's lips apart. With a tense, focused expression, Cassandra carefully fed him, spoonful by spoonful. Soon, the glass was empty. After placing a sugar cube under his tongue to dissolve, and with the 4-bag half empty, Liam's breathing finally began to even out. Palmer and Evelyn silently wiped sweat from their brows. Thank God. If anything had happened to him, they would have been finished. Ms. Thorne, once he wakes up, he should have some of the broth, and he'll be fine. I've portioned out his medication. He just needs to take it later, Evelyn said, carefully placing labeled pill cups on a nightstand. When Cassandra didn't respond, she gave Palmer a look, and together they ushered everyone out of the bedroom, closing the door softly behind them. The room fell silent. Cassandra sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes locked on Liam's face. A faint hint of color was returning to his pale cheeks, his breathing growing steadier. She pressed her lips together, her hand reaching out to stroke his face. His skin was cool to the touch. Her fingers moved slowly, tracing the line of his clenched lips, now moist from the juice. Cassandra bit her own lip, her hand gliding up to the corner of his eye. Her gaze hardened. An overwhelming, suffocating desire for control surged through her, nearly driving her mad. Replaying the events in the bathroom, she had the insane urge to crush him into dust and meld him in her own body so he could never leave. She didn't know what was wrong with her. At first, she had just wanted to see him beg. Now, it had morphed into a possessiveness that frightened even her. But she knew one thing. To satisfy this craving, the only solution was to keep him by her side. By force, if necessary. She didn't care. Cassandra took a few deep, ragged breaths. Her fingers trembled, caught between the urge to squeeze and the fear of hurting him again. She pressed her lips into a thin line, her thumb stroking his cheek as she murmured a venomous promise. Liam, you are never leaving me. Ugh. It felt like he'd been asleep for an eternity, tumbling through a dark, spinning void. Liam's eyelids fluttered. He wiggled his fingers, then slowly blinked his eyes open. The first thing he saw was the warm, yellow glow of a lamp. The second was the face of the woman he now hated to his very core. Cassandra Thorne. She was sitting primly beside him, but her beautiful eyes were webbed with red veins as she stared holes through him. You're awake? Her voice, a strange mix of fury and cool detachment, was tinged with exhaustion. The sound shocked Liam into full awareness. This woman, she was the one who had almost killed him. Despite having just woken up, despite having eaten nothing, a primal strength surged through him. He launched himself up, a snarling tiger pouncing on its prey. Cassandra's eyes widened, but she showed no sign of panic. He slammed into her, pinning her to the mattress, his hands clamping down on her shoulders with enough force to shatter bone. She winced in pain, but didn't cry out. Her brow furrowed as she asked calmly, Aren't you hungry? Hungry. Gruel. The word had barely formed in his mind when his stomach betrayed him with a loud, pathetic roar. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and the strength fled his limbs. The pressure on her shoulders lessened considerably. Hearing his stomach's cry, feeling his grip weaken, Cassandra's lips curled into a faint smirk. You should eat something. I had them keep the broth warm for you. That same mocking expression. Did she have any idea he'd almost just died? Did she treat a human life as a game? Or had she simply never considered him human in the first place? Rage exploded in Liam's chest. He shot a hand up and wrapped it around her throat. Eat this, you bitch. I'll kill you first. He squeezed. 4 days of simmering hatred, compounded by the fresh fury of a near-death experience, erupted in a single, desperate act of violence. Cassandra immediately choked, the blood rushing to her head, turning her face a deep crimson. If you kill me, you won't get out of here alive, she gasped, the world already turning black at the edges. One life for another, Liam snarled, ignoring the dizzy spell, now pounding in his skull. My worthless life for the great Cassandra Thorne? Sounds like a bargain to me. He squeezed with all his might. Her slender neck felt fragile, like it could snap at any moment. Her eyes bulged, her mouth opening and closing silently. But even as the fear of death should have been taking hold, Liam saw the corners of her mouth lift into a smile. It was as if she was waiting for him to do it. He suddenly went cold, his fingers instantly releasing their grip. No, if he killed her, what was the difference between them? Cassandra was a psychopath. He wasn't. He was a normal person who just wanted a simple, free life. He couldn't let himself be dragged into her world of madness. He might not be able to control what she did, but he could control himself. He had to be his own man, the master of his own actions. Cough, cough, cough. Freed, Cassandra gasped for air, dry heaving as she clutched her throat. After a moment, her breathing steadied. She looked up at Liam, a flicker of genuine surprise in her eyes. Why did you stop? She asked, her voice raspy. She was genuinely curious. Killing you would stain my life, Liam answered flatly. He pushed himself up, leaning back against the headboard. He looked at her with an expression of mingled contempt and pity. And you're not worth it. He was reclining, weak and disheveled, but his words, delivered without a trace of emotion, struck Cassandra like a physical blow. A surge of rage, hotter than any she had felt before, flooded her. How dare he? How dare he look at her with that compassionate, pitying gaze? She was Cassandra Thorne of the New York Thorns. To be ignored by him was one thing, but to be looked at with pity, as if he were some kind of saint taking pity on a fallen soul. No one had ever looked at her like that. For the first time in her life, she felt her pride being ground into the dirt under his heel. It was worse than if he had actually killed her. Don't you look at me like that. Take that pathetic look off your face. She was losing it. She scrambled across the bed, her chest heaving with rage, and grabbed the collar of his robe, looming over him. She was on top, the one in the dominant position, and yet as Liam tilted his head back, his eyes still held that same infuriating blend of mockery and mercy. This wasn't what she wanted. For some reason, in that moment, even though he was right there in front of her, raw and real, she felt like he was slipping away, like he no longer belonged to her. The look in his eyes was driving her mad. Gritting her teeth, she surreptitiously slipped a hand into the small pocket of her dress and palmed a tiny pill. While Liam was distracted, she dropped it into the bowl of broth on the nightstand. She picked up the bowl, her tone dropping a few degrees. Drink the broth, she commanded. Did she think he was an idiot? Liam sneered. You really think I'd eat anything you gave me? Don't make me lose my temper, Cassandra hissed through her teeth, pushing the rim of the bowl against his lips. Liam clenched his jaw and turned his head away, the muscles in his neck cording. He spat out a single word. Get lost. Cassandra stared at his defiant profile, her own anger boiling over. She lifted the bowl, took a large mouthful of the broth, then grabbed Liam's chin with her free hand, forcing his head back around. Before he could react, she crushed her mouth against his. Liam had no time to process what was happening. He opened his mouth to curse her, but a stream of warm broth slid down his throat. He choked and coughed, but he had already swallowed a significant amount. Cassandra pulled back, wiping her lips, ready to go in for another round. But Liam's hand shot up and slapped the bowl from her grasp. Crash! The sound of shattering ceramic echoed through the bedroom. Ms. Thorne, is everything all right? Evelyn's anxious voice called from outside the door. Cassandra's gaze remained locked on Liam. Bring another bowl of broth, she ordered coldly. Yes, ma'am, Evelyn replied, and they heard her footsteps hurrying away. Liam wiped his mouth. The savory aroma of the broth lingered, and the traitorous worm in his stomach writhed with hunger. He'd been able to ignore it before, but now the hunger was so intense he felt like he was about to pass out. Gruel! His stomach wouldn't shut up. Gritting his teeth, Liam shoved Cassandra away. Get off me. I don't have time to play your games. Surprisingly, she didn't resist. She simply sat on the bed, her expression like ice as she watched him. Liam threw open the bedroom door, coming face to face with Evelyn, who was carrying a fresh bowl of broth. The rich scent hit him like a physical blow, and his stomach roared in protest. Sir, please have the broth. You're still very weak. You shouldn't be moving around, Evelyn said, her tone polite as she offered him the bowl. Liam saw another maid behind her holding a small pot, clearly filled with more of the same broth, kept warm for him. He knew he was weak. He figured this townhouse was somewhere in the suburbs, probably a good 20-minute drive from the city. He couldn't drive in this condition, and that was assuming there was even a car available for him to take. He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on Evelyn for a long moment. Finally, he took the bowl and downed the warm broth in one go. With something finally in his stomach, he turned to leave. But Evelyn sidestepped, blocking his path. Sir, you need a rest. It would be best if you didn't leave just yet. As she spoke, her eyes flickered toward Cassandra inside the room, a silent, desperate warning. Liam couldn't care less. What more do you want? He demanded, his voice flat. I almost died in here. Aren't you tired of this yet? Evelyn winced. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not the one who locked you up. She held her ground, and now Palmer and several other guards had appeared, forming a human wall in the hallway, blocking any chance of escape. He'd just eaten, but his body hadn't recovered. He was no match for them, but he'd already tasted death once. What was there to lose? Liam's eyes narrowed. He braced himself to fight his way out. But just as he was about to move, a dizzying wave of heat washed over him. His body felt like it was on fire, an unbearable, scorching sensation spreading from the inside out. The unnatural feeling told him everything. It was the broth. He grabbed Evelyn's shoulder. What did you put in it? He snarled. What? Evelyn yelped, wincing from his grip. It's just broth. I had some myself. She looked at him, and her eyes widened when she saw the unnatural, feverish flush spreading across his face. She understood instantly. Before Liam could say another word, Evelyn shoved him back into the bedroom and slammed the door, the lock clicking firmly into place. You. Liam spun around, his eyes wide and bloodshot as he stared at Cassandra. She wasn't faring much better. She had swallowed some of the broth, too, and a deep blush was creeping up her cheeks. Me, she replied nonchalantly, her fingers already tugging at the sash of her robe. Liam was stunned by her brazenness. He instinctively backed away, his hand clutching the collar of his own robe. You're insane. Did this woman have no shame? After everything that had just happened, this was what she was thinking about. Cassandra's face was flushed, her robe already slipping off one shoulder. She was breathing heavily, her eyes locked on him like a predator that had just cornered its prey. The next second, she swung her legs off the bed, her bare feet landing silently on the plush carpet. She stood up and began to advance on him, step by step, like a vampire closing in. It's not our first time, she purred, raising an eyebrow. What, are you shy? She watched him, cornered against the sofa, his hands clenched in a futile effort to fight the drug's effects. A thrill of indescribable pleasure shot through her. She was burning up too. Liam's back was pressed against the wall. The sofa was to his left, and every part of him screamed to collapse onto it, but his mind fought back. No, you can't let her win. His head was swimming, his vision blurring at the edges. He scanned the room with fever-red eyes until he saw it, a pitcher of water condensing with cold on a nearby coffee table. He took a deep breath, gathered the last shred of his sanity, and shoved Cassandra aside. He lunged for the pitcher and, without hesitating, upended it over his own head. Whoosh, the icy water shocked him, clearing his head for a precious second. But Cassandra, who had stumbled onto the sofa, was already rising, her eyes fixed on him as she came for him again. She was a starving ghost, and he was her only salvation. Liam couldn't dodge in time. Her hand shot out and grabbed his arm. This time, she gave him no chance to resist. She rose onto her toes and pressed her lips to his. The soft, yielding sensation was like a spark on dry tinder. Liam froze. In the dim, hazy light, he saw her pull back slightly, and a delicate, silvery thread connected their lips for a brief moment before breaking. In that instant, the fire raging inside him consumed him completely. He knew then that the inferno in his veins demanded a response, a cataclysmic change. He couldn't fight it anymore. Liam's hand shot up, grabbing her shoulder. He ground his teeth together. You asked for this. Cassandra's eyes were unfocused, her mind lost in a fog. She couldn't understand his words anymore. All she knew was that she was starving. Outside the townhouse, the night was black, the wind howling as it crashed against the darkness, tearing a rift in the silent sky until, late into the night, a riot of stars finally broke through. For the first time in a long while, Cassandra Thorne slept until noon. When she awoke, a profound sense of satisfaction filled her entire being. She smiled, reaching out to touch the space beside her. And then, the smile vanished. Her eyes snapped open. The space was empty. Liam was gone. She threw back the covers and bolted out of the bedroom. The sight that greeted her in the living area made her stop short, a corner of her mouth twitching. Liam was sitting at the dining table, which was laden with a feast of various dishes. He was devouring the food like a wolf. Cassandra's frantic heart settled. She walked briskly to the table and sat down across from him. As if her sanity had finally returned, she broke the silence. "As a token of my apology," she said formally, "I will grant you one request." Liam, gnawing on a massive chicken leg, let out a cold laugh. "Don't need it." Bargain with him? It was too late for that. Now there were only two options: let him go or kill him. There would be no more compromises. She'd made a generous offer, and he'd thrown it back in her face. Cassandra's eyes darkened. "You performed well yesterday," she said, her voice light but edged with steel. "A reward, in other words. Don't push your luck." How could Liam not understand? He sneered, giving her no quarter. "You think I would have touched you if you hadn't drugged me? Fine, fine." His stubbornness amused her. A smirk played on her lips as she leaned forward, propping her chin on her hand. "I don't mind making that drug part of your daily diet." In other words, she could dose him every single day. The stuff certainly worked. It had been an unprecedented experience. Cassandra was very, very satisfied. Unlike the pain of the first time, she felt addicted. Addicted to him. Liam silently put down the half-eaten chicken leg, his expression impassive. "And you think I'll just sit here and let you?" He stood up abruptly. He'd eaten his fill, and combined with the medications Evelyn had given him, he felt his strength returning. If Palmer and his men tried to stop him now, he was ready for a fight. He turned to leave, not giving her a chance to reply. But her voice, laced with a playful, mocking tone, stopped him in his tracks. "So, you're just going to leave? I guess you don't care if Khloe lives or dies then." Her words landed like a physical blow. Liam froze. He whipped around, fighting to keep his expression neutral. "We were just colleagues," he said flatly. "What happens to her is none of my business." He had to be ruthless about this. If Cassandra ever found out Khloe was his sister, she would have him on a leash for the rest of his life. As long as she didn't know, he had to cut all ties. But a wicked smile spread across Cassandra's face. "Is that so?" she asked, tapping her fingers on the tabletop, her eyes glinting with amusement. "Even if Khloe is your biological sister, it still doesn't matter to you?" She smiled sweetly, but her words were the whisper of a demon from hell. Liam was stunned. He turned back fully, his voice tight with shock. "You already know? If I want to know something, there is nothing I can't find out." Cassandra's expression was one of absolute victory. Initially, she hadn't known, but after bringing him back, hearing about the shopping spree and his visit to Khloe's apartment had ignited a firestorm of jealousy. She'd ordered her people to dig into every detail of Liam's connection to Khloe. The result was this unexpected and very welcome piece of good news. How would Liam react to this long-lost sister? It was bound to be interesting. Cassandra squinted, watching his shocked and helpless expression, and a wave of pure satisfaction washed over her. He hadn't expected her to investigate so quickly. Liam clenched his fists, his lips pressed into a thin, hard line. He said nothing. The amusement in Cassandra's eyes deepened. "If you agree to do as I say from now on," she purred, "I can guarantee your sister will live a life of luxury." She paused, her smile never wavering. "Of course, I've seen your sister's resume. Not much work experience, but she's very bright. It's a bit of a waste to have her as an intern. As it happens, I believe a department manager position just opened up." The implication was clear. If he obeyed, his sister would be set for life. A manager at Zenith Corp, regardless of the department, would easily clear 6 figures. It was the fastest way to lift Khloe's family out of their financial struggles. But, meeting Cassandra's triumphant gaze, Liam let out a cold laugh. "And what makes you think I'd help a complete stranger?" His words landed, one by one, in the silent room. This time, it was Cassandra's turn to be stunned. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "She's your biological sister. The DNA report said 99%. And what does that have to do with me?" Liam was perfectly calm. He pulled out a chair and leaned against its back, a faint, mocking smile on his face. "Do you think our relationship is so profound that I would trade my own freedom for her?" He continued, his voice like stones dropping into a deep well. It's just a piece of paper. Can it replace the 20-plus years of my own life? The life I actually lived? His words shattered her certainty. How is this possible? After being abandoned by the Hamiltons and betrayed by his ex-girlfriend, shouldn't he be desperate for a real family connection? Or was he so fiercely independent that he had no need for anyone, no desire for comfort when he was beaten down? In that moment, Cassandra's desire to conquer him shifted. It became a desire to understand him. She wanted to know who this man really was. He stood before her, his gaze placid, yet he radiated the unapproachable loneliness of a king on a desolate throne. Seeing her silence, Liam knew his words had hit their mark. They were cruel, but they were the truth. Why should he feel any sympathy for a family that had never raised him? From his earliest memories, he was in the system. Unlike the other kids who yearned for parents, he had always known, deep down, that in this world, he could only rely on himself. That's why he had worked so hard at the Hamiltons. He knew their relationship was transactional. When they threw him out, he never once thought of revenge. You come together for mutual benefit. You part ways when the benefit is gone. He had always been alone in this world. The events of the past month had only sharpened that clarity. For the rest of his life, he would live for himself, because in his world, he was the one the sun had to revolve around. Ms. Thorne, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving, Liam said, his voice firm, his stance clear. My answer is final. I hope you won't bother me again. Unexpectedly, this time Cassandra didn't have her men stop him. However, she had one condition. I can leave you alone, but you have to do one thing for me. Liam raised an eyebrow. Let's hear it. Cassandra crossed her arms, her gaze full of meaning. There's a society gala the day after tomorrow. You'll be my escort. After that, I will let you go. A society gala? Liam froze, a thought instantly flashing through his mind. She couldn't possibly mean, if you agree to accompany me, I will let you go, Cassandra repeated, her expression unreadable. Liam considered it for a moment. You don't mean as your date, do you? If that were the case, everyone would know about them. The news would be everywhere. He'd never be able to walk away. Cassandra's lips curled. He wasn't as dumb as he looked. Relax. You'll be attending as my bodyguard. Her words were ambiguous, but the meaning was clear enough. Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Fine, I agree, but I expect you to keep your word when it's over. But of course, Cassandra nodded slightly. She watched him walk out of the townhouse, a slow, triumphant smile spreading across her face. She had agreed to let him go. She'd said nothing about his sister. She crossed one leg over the other, a languid, satisfied feeling spreading through her. She hadn't had nearly enough of this new, thrilling experience. How could she possibly let him go so easily? Cassandra raised an eyebrow and called out coolly, Evelyn. Evelyn, who had been working in Cassandra's study, appeared instantly. Yes, Ms. Thorne, what are your instructions? Have Haley adjust Khloe Sias' position. And while you're at it, she paused, a new thought occurring to her. Find her an apartment near the office. Evelyn blinked, stunned. A promotion in a new apartment? Khloe Sias had certainly hit the jackpot. She understood the implied message perfectly. Yes, Ms. Thorne, I'll see to it immediately. As Evelyn left, Cassandra stood and walked towards the bathroom in the guest suite. The faint scent of Liam still lingered in the air. She closed her eyes, a flicker of last night's passion warming her. A slow, wistful smile touched her lips. It truly had been an exquisite experience. After leaving the townhouse, Liam was drenched in sweat. He walked for nearly 15 minutes along the private road before finally reaching a main highway. After a few more minutes of waiting, he managed to flag down a cab. Where it's a kid, the driver asked as he pulled away. Liam's mind went blank. Right? Where was he going? He'd already given up his lease on the old apartment, planning to stay at the factory dorms for a while. That was obviously out. And after the things he'd just said to Cassandra, going to Khloe's place was definitely not an option. He checked his bank account on his phone. Just over $12,000 left. He thought for a moment. The Hilton, he told the driver. He might as well live it up for a day or two. A king-sized bed sounded like a fair reward for the hell he'd just been through. You only live once, after all. You got it, the driver said, slamming his foot on the gas. Less than half an hour later, the cab pulled up to the grand entrance of the Hilton. Liam paid the fare, checked in at the front desk, and headed for the elevators with his key card. His attention was glued to his phone, and he didn't notice the person walking out of the elevator as the doors opened. Liam, Jessica called out in shock, then quickly slapped a hand over her mouth. Jess, what are you talking about? A man emerged from the elevator behind her, draping an arm around her shoulders with a sleazy smile. He followed her gaze toward the elevator, but the doors had already closed. He saw nothing. Oh, and nothing. Jessica shook her head frantically, her face pale. She grabbed the man's sleeve. Spencer, let's just go eat. I'm starving. Sure thing, babe. Order whatever you want, my treat. Spencer's son puffed out his chest, pulling her close as they walked away. Jessica kept her head down, her face still ashen, secretly glancing back at the closed elevator doors. She couldn't believe it. Liam here? The incident at the convenience store had been a huge blow, but after a pep talk from her mother, she'd come to a new conclusion. Being a side piece didn't matter as long as the money was good. But Liam had switched jobs and vanished. He wouldn't answer her calls, and with her allowance cut off, she'd been forced to crawl back to Spencer. It was from him that she'd learned about the exclusive high-society gala happening the day after tomorrow. Spencer was representing his family, and he needed a date. That was the only reason she had agreed to come to this hotel with him. This gala was her golden ticket, her chance to change her destiny. If she could just land a real tycoon, her family could finally break into the upper crust. Maybe then, Liam would come crawling back to her, begging for a second chance. She had humbled herself for him, and all she'd gotten in return was his cruel mockery. She couldn't swallow that insult. She was supposed to be the main character, the one everyone adored. Why was she being repeatedly humiliated by him? Jessica clenched her fists, tightening her grip on Spencer's arm. She forced a sweet smile. Spencer, honey, I heard there's some kind of big party coming up. She let the line hang in the air. Spencer's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to go with me, don't you? Jessica's spirits soared. She nodded enthusiastically. Yes. You need a date, right? I'll get all dressed up. I promise I won't embarrass you. She put on her cutest, most innocent expression, her big eyes sparkling. The sight of her pure, pitiful act made Spencer's blood run hot. He tightened his arm around her shoulder, a lecherous grin spreading across his face. Well, that all depends on how satisfied you make me tonight. Jessica blushed, playfully tapping his arm. Spencer, you're so bad. If I wasn't bad, would you love me? Spencer said, feeling smug. His mind was already replaying scenes from his favorite movies. Meanwhile, comfortably ensconced in his hotel room, Liam had ordered a feast from DoorDash and was just finishing a long, hot shower. He was scrolling through TikTok, waiting for his food to arrive, when a notification banner popped up at the top of his screen. At the same moment, across town, Cassandra Thorne held a gold-leafed invitation in her hand, her eyes dark, a cold smirk twisting her lips. It was a message from Carl Sawyer. Carl, bro, were you working these days? Thinking of how much Carl had helped him, driving away the Hamiltons and Jessica's family, Liam replied honestly. Liam, chilling at the Hilton, lying flat. Carl, again? Man facepalming Liam, yep. In this economy, why work when you can coast? Carl, can't argue with that. But listen, man, it's one thing to coast when you're flush, another when you're not. It'll make you anxious after a while. Liam frowned. He had a feeling Carl was leading up to something. Liam, Carl, just spit it out. We're friends. No need to beat around the bush. Carl, all right, I won't. That live stream you did at my place was a huge hit. A couple of talent agents contacted me. They want you to do a cameo in a show they're casting. Small part, just an extra. Before Liam could reply, another message came through. Carl, you said you're at the Hilton, right? There's a film crew shooting nearby. Since you're not busy, thought you might want to make some quick cash. Carl, you never accepted that transfer I sent you, and it's been weighing on me. You're just lying flat anyway. They said they basically just want you for your face, a walk-on part. Reading the long stream of messages, Liam raised an eyebrow. He was touched that Carl was still thinking about it. The transfer had been for over $5,000. Far too much for less than a week's work between friends, so he hadn't accepted it. He hadn't realized Carl felt bad about it. It seemed they were both suffering from an overactive conscience. A rare smile touched Liam's lips, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. As for Carl's suggestion, it wasn't a bad idea. He was unemployed, with only about 12 grand to his name. After this gala, picking up some gig work would be smart. Still, he knew the entertainment industry was a shark tank. Even as an extra, he had no experience in that world. What if he got trapped in some predatory contract? Liam, is it legit? Carl, would I recommend it if it wasn't? One of the guys is even a Columbia grad like you. Name's Brandon Jung or something. Brandon Jung? Liam frowned. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it. Still, if Carl Sawyer recommended it, he trusted him. Liam, all right, tell him I'm in. I've got something to take care of first, but I can be there the day after tomorrow. Carl sent back a thumbs-up emoji. Just then, his food arrived. Liam put down his phone, ate half his meal, and then, embracing his lying-flat philosophy, sprawled out on the bed and fell asleep. For the next 2 days, he didn't leave the room. He ordered delivery when he was hungry and had housekeeping come in to clean every afternoon. On the afternoon of the third day, at 5 o'clock sharp, he received a message from Haley Liu. Haley, sir, please send me your address. I am on my way to pick you up. Liam sent his location without hesitation, praying the night would be over quickly so he could finally be free. At 5:30, Haley knocked on his door. She had a garment bag with her. Liam didn't ask questions, just took the suit into the bathroom to change. After checking out the hotel, he got into Haley's car, and they set off for the Intercontinental Hotel. The ballroom is on the top floor. Ms. Thorne has given her instructions. I will escort you upstairs. When Ms. Thorne is ready to dine, you are to inspect the food beforehand. You are to remain by her side at all times and ensure her safety, Haley recited crisply in the car. Liam's mouth twitched. Wasn't that basically the job of a eunuch for an ancient emperor? Food taster? Were they really using him as a human shield? But it was just one night. A few hours of this, and he'd have his freedom back. It was a small price to pay. The car moved quickly, arriving at their destination in no time. As they pulled up, Liam glanced at the magnificent hotel tower. He wasn't surprised by the opulence. He'd been to this Intercontinental before. 8 stories of pure luxury, with an exclusive beach view that pushed room rates to over $20,000 a night. It was easily one of the top 3 hotels in the country. A valet immediately came forward. Haley tossed him the keys and strode into the hotel. Liam followed close behind. As they passed through the outer doors and into the garden courtyard, he saw a red carpet stretching from the entrance deep into the lobby. The path was flanked by extravagant floral arrangements and dozens of security guards. Tonight's guests were clearly in a class of their own. As they stepped onto the red carpet and entered the grand lobby, a young man in a tailored suit approached them with a wide smile. Ms. Liu, a pleasure. I'm Spencer Sun of Sun Enterprises. It's an honor to meet you. Spencer offered a business card with a flourish. Hearing the name, Liam did a double take. Spencer Sun? Could it be the Spencer Jessica was always talking about? He sized the man up. With that smug, punk-ass grin, he was clearly just another spoiled rich kid. Definitely Jessica's type. Liam was amused to be a spectator to his own drama. Beside him, Haley didn't even turn her head. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped inside without a word. Liam moved to follow, but Spencer blocked his way, his smile now a pleading, sycophantic grin. Hey, buddy, do me a favor and give this card to Ms. Liu for me, would you? Haley had already snubbed him. Why would he take it? Liam made a tisk sound and walked past him into the elevator without a second glance. As the doors began to close, he saw Jessica approaching, dressed in a white evening gown, an elegant smile on her face. In the split second before the doors shut completely, he saw her smile freeze, her eyes widening in utter disbelief. How is he here? Jessica stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Beside her, Spencer, having been snubbed twice, showed no anger. Instead, he grabbed her shoulders, his voice urgent with excitement. Jess, you know them? Jessica looked at him nervously, biting her lip before spitting out a lie. The man. He was a classmate of mine at Columbia. She watched Spencer's face, terrified he would explode. To her surprise, his eyes lit up with glee. That's perfect. Jess, you have to find a chance to give him my card. Ask him to pass it to Ms. Liu. What? Jess, listen to me. That woman who just went up is Haley Liu, a board member and the COO of Zenith Corp. If I can get an introduction to her, the Sun family could jump to a whole new level. If you do this for me, I'll marry you in a ceremony so grand it'll make headlines. Spencer was practically vibrating with excitement. His words rang in Jessica's ears, but the promise of marriage was secondary to the first part of his declaration. What did he say? The woman with Liam is a director at Zenith Corp? In that instant, the mystery that had plagued her for weeks was solved. She had wondered how a disgraced outcast from the Hamilton family could so easily land a job at Zenith and start driving a supercar. So that was it. He'd latched onto a corporate sugar mama. The woman she saw him with at the convenience store warehouse. It must have been Haley Liu. She bit her lip so hard she could taste blood. She couldn't believe it. Liam, you really know how to play the game. She looked at Spencer, feigning reluctance. Spencer, honey, my relationship with him is complicated. She was trying to say that it would be difficult, that she couldn't guarantee success. But Spencer was too far gone in his excitement. He grabbed her shoulders, his voice pleading. It's fine, Jess, it's fine. Weren't you the most popular girl at Columbia? It's just a small favor. If you ask him, I'm sure he'll do it. The most popular girl. The words sparked a memory, a feeling of her former glory. He was right. Everyone at Columbia knew her name, and she and Liam had been together for 3 years. That kind of history doesn't just disappear. Everything Liam was doing now, It was all just a show off for her, to make her jealous. She refused to believe that 3 years of love meant nothing. Usually, she was the one pandering to Spencer. Now, he was practically begging her. This was the power dynamic she craved. Besides, it was just one little business card. After all their history, surely he wouldn't refuse such a small favor. Jessica's confidence surged. Forget marrying into the Sun family. Her ambitions were much grander now. She raised an eyebrow, took the business card from Spencer, and smiled sweetly. All right, but if I pull this off, how are you going to reward me? You know that place you love, the Gilded Bean Cafe? Spencer didn't hesitate. I'll buy it. The moment this is done, it's yours. The Gilded Bean wasn't in the heart of the city, but owning a business, any business, would instantly elevate her status. Jessica's smile widened, becoming dazzlingly bright. No problem. You can count on me. This gala isn't all that, Liam muttered, leaning against the elevator wall as they ascended. He thought it was some ultra-exclusive event, but if people like Jessica and Spencer could get in, the Thorns were really slumming it. Haley shot him a sideways glance. She knew exactly what he was thinking. They're not on the official guest list. Then how they get in? Liam asked, surprised. The main event is on the top floor. These people just heard there was a party and crashed, hoping to rub elbows with their betters, Haley said with a dismissive sniff. She'd seen it 100 times. Liam's mouth twitched. I thought this was supposed to be some high-class affair. If any riffraff can get in, it's not that impressive. His disdainful tone opened Haley's floodgates. The Thorne family is just making an appearance. Who knows what this Vance character is really up to? She was only here because she'd been ordered to bring Liam. She had no idea why Ms. Thorne was interested in such a tacky event. It made no sense. Vance? Liam caught the name instantly. Yeah, Haley chattered on. Some guy named Graham Vance just got back from studying abroad. It's his birthday, so his grandfather threw this huge party and invited half the city. As she spoke, Liam's brow furrowed. He'd heard of the Vance family. They were one of New York's 4 great families, major players in the business world. He'd even attended an auction hosted by the Vance patriarch back when he was with the Hamiltons, but it had been a brief encounter. He was a self-made man, an outsider who had clawed his way up in less than 3 years. He hadn't been on their radar. But the Thorns were in a completely different stratosphere. They could crush the 4 great families without breaking a sweat. Why would Cassandra Thorne deign to attend a party like this? It was bizarre, unless she was doing it on purpose. The thought sent a sudden, prickling chill down his spine. As the elevator doors opened onto a scene of breathtakingly extravagant luxury, Liam's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly had a terrible feeling that Cassandra's promise to let him go was just the beginning of a whole new game. Let's go. What are you spacing out for? Ms. Thorne is waiting, Haley snapped, nudging him. You're our only bodyguard tonight, remember? The words echoed in his head like a curse. But he was already here. The arrow was on the bowstring. He had to see it through. Taking a deep breath, Liam stepped into the ballroom. The main hall was already filled with people in their finest attire, some with dates on their arms. Liam could pick out the true heirs and heiresses, maybe 7 or 8 of them. The other 40 or 50 people were bodyguards, assistants, or servants. The scale of the event was immense. Haley led him through a VIP entrance directly to a private suite. When she pushed the door open, he saw Cassandra. She was lounging on a genuine leather sofa, regal and elegant in a pale green gown. A necklace of priceless emeralds graced her slender neck. Her long, pale legs were propped shamelessly on the low coffee table in front of her. It was an audacious pose, yet on her, it looked impossibly chic, exuding an air of innate nobility. Ms. Thorne, I've brought him, Haley announced, bowing her head. Cassandra lifted her gaze, her indifferent eyes landing on Liam, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. 2 days apart, and he still looked so strong. A satisfied smirk touched her lips. She raised a hand and gave a slight, dismissive flick of her fingers. Haley immediately understood and backed out of the room, closing the door behind her. Now they were alone. Liam couldn't be bothered with pleasantries. He walked straight to the sofa and plopped down like he owned the place. Cassandra raised an eyebrow at his casualness, but didn't say anything. Leaning back against the cushions, Liam asked coolly, when does this start, and what time does it end? That was all he cared about. The sooner this unpleasant ordeal was over, the better. It starts at 7, Cassandra purred, her lips curling into a smile. But as for when it ends, I have no idea. It was a party, after all. If the host wanted to, they could go until dawn. Liam knew that. But, are you insane? He snapped. It's not even 6 o'clock. Why did you make me come so early? Every minute he had to spend alone with her was another minute of torture. If he could have, he would have shown up at 6:59. Cassandra was unperturbed. Her eyes remained fixed on him, that same playful, wicked smile on her face. An hour is plenty of time to do many things. As she spoke, she gracefully swung her legs off the table, her heels sinking into the plush carpet. She smiled, her gaze raking over him, and beckoned with one finger. Come here. He was already sitting on the same sofa, just a few feet away. How much closer did she want him to get? This was a private suite. Yes, but they were still at a public event. Had 2 days without him really made her this desperate? Seeing the hungry, predatory gleam in her eyes, Liam's own filled with contempt. Ms. Thorne, surely you're not that starved for attention. His words were a direct slap in the face. He was here under duress. She couldn't expect politeness. But Cassandra didn't get angry. Instead, her smile deepened. Aren't you supposed to be a saint? Shouldn't you? She paused, rising to her feet. As she moved, the diamonds on her gown shimmered and danced. It was distracting. Liam narrowed his eyes, watching her approach. He figured he was safe. If he yelled, people would come running. Even she wasn't crazy enough to try something here. So, he stayed put, slouched on the sofa. Cassandra closed the distance until she was standing right in front of him. She bent down, the heavy emerald pendant swinging in the air, drawing his eyes downward. Nope. Liam sucked in a breath and quickly turned his head away, forcing himself not to look. He'd fallen for that trick before. Seeing his small act of resistance, the smile in Cassandra's eyes grew wider. She leaned in closer, her lips almost brushing his ear. Seeing my need, she whispered, her warm breath caressing his skin. Shouldn't a saint like you minister to the poor? The hot breath sent a shiver down his spine. His body, traitor that it was, reacted, but the hatred in his heart was far stronger. Ms. Thorne, you must be mistaken, he said, his voice raspy. I'm no priest. Apparently satisfied with his reaction, Cassandra blew a soft puff of air against his ear, her voice a teasing whisper. Do you need to be? Her eyes twinkled with mischief as she brazenly hooked one leg over the sofa cushion, her meaning unmistakable. You're already equipped for the job. Liam instantly understood her crude metaphor. This woman was like a ravenous wolf, impossible to satisfy. He bit the inside of his cheek, the sharp pain grounding him. He leaned his head back, adopting a posture of pure, checked-out indifference, refusing to look at her. Then you can stay hungry. I'm not in the mood. The first part of the sentence was fine. She hadn't really intended to do anything here anyway. But the second part was grating. He didn't get to say no. Only she did. Her hand shot out, grabbing his chin and forcing him to look at her. She stroked his cheek with her fingertips. The texture of his skin was pleasing. She licked her lips contentedly. It seems you still haven't learned your place. This was a complete role reversal, and Liam, on the verge of his supposed freedom, had had enough. He slapped her hand away, stood up, and hitched his pants. He then stalked to the other end of the long sofa and sat down. Watching him, the smile finally reached Cassandra's eyes. She didn't press him further, simply taking the spot he had just vacated. Surprised that she had backed off, Liam let out a sigh of relief and changed the subject. Who's the main event of this party, anyway? He didn't want to sell out Haley, but he was curious to see if Cassandra would be straight with him. Graham Vance, she answered immediately. The Vance family? One of the four. Liam feigned surprise, then added with faux confusion. Why would the Thorne family bother attending something like this? At that, a shadow passed over Cassandra's face. She picked up an exquisite teapot, poured herself a cup, and took a delicate sip before answering. My mother arranged it. Your mother? Liam was genuinely stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. This absolute psychopath actually listened to her family? A rare sight indeed. As if reading his mind, Cassandra said nonchalantly, she arranged for me to meet Graham Vance. A blind date. She said it as if she were discussing the weather, but her eyes were locked on Liam, hungry for his reaction. Now it was Liam's turn to be utterly baffled. So, this whole birthday party was just a front for a blind date with the great Cassandra Thorne? But wait, that didn't make sense. The Vances were small fry compared to the Thornes. Why would they bother? Staring at her, and thinking about the insane way she had tormented him, he thought he finally understood. Cassandra's parents probably knew their daughter was a raving lunatic who would never find a husband. The only families in New York who could even be considered were the four great families. Liam's mouth twitched. Every family really does have its own problems. But that led to another, more pressing question. Wait a minute. This is your blind date. What the hell am I doing here? He blurted out. Hello. The nature of their relationship was not exactly something you could publicize. Keeping it hidden was one thing, but bringing him to her blind date, and as her only companion? Was she planning to announce their sordid affair to the entire room? So much for her letting him go. This was just another form of control, wasn't it? While Liam reeled from the revelation, Cassandra calmly sipped her tea, her thoughtful gaze drifting over him. Her stare, so bold, so penetrating, made his skin crawl. He turned his head, refusing to meet her eyes. He tried to puzzle out her motive. He understood the blind date part, but bringing him along was too ambiguous, too fraught with meaning. If she really announced their relationship at the party, what would he do? Just take the hit. No. Liam's eyes narrowed. As crazy as Cassandra was, even she had limits. Announcing their relationship would only hurt her reputation. He was a nobody, an outcast. She was a thorn. Recalling how she'd wanted to keep things quiet at the convenience store, he realized he wasn't the one who should be worried. He was probably just overthinking it, desperate to escape her clutches. Reassured by this logic, his racing heart began to slow. Time passed quickly. Soon, a knock sounded at the door. Ms. Thorne, the gala has begun. Mr. Vance Sr. requests your presence in the main hall. It was a man's voice. Cassandra expressionlessly set down her teacup. Understood, she replied coolly. She rose to her feet and glanced at Liam, who was still seated. A cold smile touched her lips. Still sitting? My bodyguard. Liam took a deep breath, shot her a venomous glare, and reluctantly stood up. Take the gift box, Cassandra instructed, turning and sweeping out of the room. Liam looked down, picked up the beautifully wrapped box from the table, and followed her. Her figure was truly stunning. The pale green gown made her skin look like snow, transforming her into a princess escaping from an enchanted forest. Her long hair cascaded down her back, accentuating a waist so slender it looked like you could circle it with two hands. As she walked, the mermaid-style skirt swayed, the embedded diamonds catching the light with a brilliant, shimmering sparkle. Wherever she went, she was the main event. The attendees of this gala were the movers and shakers of New York, their partners all dressed to the nines. But in Cassandra's presence, they all faded into the background. Is that Ms. Thorne? Is that really her? I can't believe the Van Cess actually got her to come. Damn, they always said Cassandra Thorne was a knockout, but I thought it was an exaggeration. My God. The Vance family has some serious pull. Ms. Thorne herself attending their party? That's next-level clout, a total unicorn sighting. As they walked, Liam overheard the hushed whispers. He couldn't help but twitch his lips. It was true, her beauty had stunned him at first glance. But who could imagine that beneath such a perfect exterior lurked a sadistic, twisted monster? Listening to their awestruck comments, Liam didn't know if he should consider himself lucky or cursed. When Cassandra ascended the steps to the main stage, the elderly patriarch of the Vance family immediately stood up, his face wreathed in smiles. It's been too long, Ms. Thorne. You've certainly blossomed into a fine young woman. His words, projected across the hall, carried a clear subtext. I've known you since you were a child. The old man was shamelessly trying to elevate his own status. So this was how the top tier behaved. Liam suppressed a sneer. He focused on his role as a bodyguard, his face a mask of grim professionalism as he scanned the crowd. Luckily, he didn't recognize a single person. Cassandra paid no mind to the old man's fawning, offering a polite but distant smile. Mr. Vance, a pleasure. This is a small birthday gift from a junior for your grandson. She gave a slight, graceful bow, every movement radiating class. Liam took his cue and presented the gift. From behind the old man, Graham Vance stepped forward, dressed in an expensive white suit. He smiled as he accepted the box. Thank you, Ms. Thorne. The moment he took it, the smile on Cassandra's face vanished, replaced by an expression of pure, cold pride. Graham, standing closest to her, felt his own smile freeze, a flicker of irritation in his eyes. The Vance patriarch, however, was beaming too broadly to notice. Thank you all for taking the time to attend my grandson's birthday celebration, he boomed. My son and daughter-in-law are on their way. Graham, holding the gift, added with a charming smile, please help yourselves to the food and drink. I hope you all have a wonderful time. With that, the elegant strains of a piano filled the air, and the guests below began to chat and mingle. For them, Graham's birthday was just an excuse to network and make deals. With the party officially underway, Mr. Vance Sr. turned to Cassandra with a conspiratorial grin. Cassandra, my dear, this is my grandson, Graham. He's just returned from his studies abroad. You two are about the same age. This is a perfect opportunity for you young people to get to know each other. He clapped Graham on the shoulder. Graham, why don't you take Miss Thorne to the private lounge to chat. The implication was clear. It's too crowded and common out here. As if on cue, Graham gestured toward an inner chamber, his smile warm and inviting. Ms. Thorne, after you. Cassandra didn't object. She gave a slight, regal nod and swept toward the back room. Behind her, Liam moved to follow, but was stopped by 2 guards at the door. Sir, please wait outside. Liam couldn't have been happier. He immediately halted. But Cassandra, who had just entered, turned back. Seeing the guards, she stopped and looked directly at the smiling Graham. Mr. Vance, what is the meaning of this? Graham wasn't an idiot. He understood her question perfectly. Rest assured, Ms. Thorne, he said smoothly. Whatever you need, I can arrange it. My grandfather was hoping we could have a private chat. There's no need for extraneous personnel. Yes, yes, Liam was screaming internally. I'm extraneous personnel. Don't let me in. Graham, my man, work your magic. Tame this beast. A dark, dangerous glint appeared in Cassandra's eyes. Before Graham could extend his invitation again, her voice dropped to a frigid tone. If he's not allowed in, then neither am I. It was laughable. Block her bodyguard and leave her alone in a room with a man? Did he really need her to spell out for him? Did he honestly think Cassandra Thorne was that naive? Liam's heart sank. No, Ms. Thorne, don't. I don't want to be a third wheel. Her words were a direct slap to Graham's face. A shadow of anger crossed his features, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by his charming smile. He waved a dismissive hand at the guards. It's fine. He's Ms. Thorne's personal security. Let it pass. Yes, sir. The guards immediately stepped aside, gesturing for Liam to enter. Liam's mouth twitched in disappointment. This guy's got no spine. He folded just like that. You'll never succeed if you're not ruthless, man. Despite his thoughts, he squared his shoulders and walked into the lounge. Graham closed the door behind them and quickly moved to the sofa, gesturing for Cassandra to sit. She smoothed the back of her gown, the simple movement outlining her exquisite figure. Graham's cheeks flushed, and he swallowed hard. Cassandra sat, her posture straight and regal, radiating an air of cool detachment. Graham busied himself pouring her tea, then lifted the glass, cloche, off a tray of exquisite desserts, pushing it towards her. I apologize, we didn't have more time to prepare for your arrival, Ms. Thorne. Please, don't feel obligated to try these simple refreshments. Cassandra gave the spread a cursory glance, but didn't move to pick up a fork. Well, crap. Is this my cue to start taste testing? As a first-time bodyguard to a high-maintenance heiress, Liam felt a bit awkward. He remembered Haley's instructions and eyed the delicate pastries. There was barely enough there to fill a cavity. If he taste-tested at all, what would be left for her? He decided to wait for a signal. Cassandra leaned back against the sofa cushions, her posture lazy yet impossibly elegant. Graham stared, mesmerized. Forgetting that she hadn't responded to him, he launched into his prepared opening monologue. Ms. Thorne, I won't beat around the bush. My name is Graham Vance. I graduated from Columbia's advanced program for young scholars at 17, then spent the last 8 years studying abroad. I received my doctorate and returned just last week. Wow, not bad, Liam thought. A genuine Ph.D. from overseas. While his family couldn't compare to the Thornes, his academic credentials more than matched hers. Liam found himself rooting for the kid. Maybe he could actually get Cassandra's attention, or at least divert some of her demonic energy away from him. But Cassandra just swept her eyes over him and replied coolly, Isn't that all public knowledge, Mr. Vance? In other words, stop wasting my time with crap I already know. Graham, however, seemed to miss the subtext entirely. Oh, you've already looked into my background, Ms. Thorne, he asked, looking genuinely pleased. Liam wanted a facepalm. Cassandra's brow furrowed. With that one sentence, she lost all desire to continue the conversation. Mr. Vance, let's cut to the chase, she said, her tone sharp and final. My mother's exact words were for me to get to know the Vance heir. You and I both know what our parents intended. We've now met. I have work to attend to, so I won't impose any longer. She started to rise. Graham wasn't about to let this opportunity slip away. He shot up and grabbed her arm. Instantly, Cassandra's face turned to stone, an unprecedented wave of cold fury radiating from her. What the hell are you paid for? She snarled, her icy gaze stabbing Liam. Liam's heart jumped. Right, bodyguard duty. He was about to step forward and knock Graham's hand away, but Graham beat him to it, releasing her arm immediately. My apologies, Ms. Thorne, he said, his face a mask of regret. I got carried away. He bowed slightly, gesturing back to the sofa. Ms. Thorne, my grandfather gave me similar instructions. If we were to part so soon, It would surely disappoint our elders. I suggest we chat a little longer. His words were tactful, acknowledging his own objective while also respecting their families. Cassandra had no desire to cause trouble for her mother. After a moment's thought, she sat back down. Graham kept his head lowered, but a vicious glint flashed in his eyes. When he looked up, his friendly smile was back in place. He gently pushed the plate of desserts closer to her. Ms. Thorne, you must not have had dinner yet. Please, have something to tide you over. It was true. Cassandra was a bit hungry. She didn't refuse the offer. She flicked her eyes toward Liam and gave a subtle nod. That's the signal. Liam stepped forward, picked up a fork, and began methodically sampling a small piece of each item on the plate. Graham said nothing, simply sipping his own tea as he watched Cassandra eat the food Liam had just cleared. She must have been truly hungry. In a short time, she had finished the small portions on the table. They sat in silence, Graham fiddling with his phone. Liam stood stiffly behind her, utterly bored. He couldn't believe it. He thought a real contender had finally arrived to save him, but after a few sentences, the guy was just playing on his phone. Apparently, a PhD from overseas gave you a different kind of focus. He had a stunning woman sitting right in front of him, and he was completely unfazed. Liam was almost impressed. He needed to learn that kind of self-control. Seeing that a reasonable amount of time had passed, Cassandra prepared to leave. But as she pushed herself up, a wave of weakness washed over her, and she collapsed back onto the sofa. A searing heat flooded her body, and she instantly knew. You drugged the food. Hearing this, Liam froze. What? Drugged? He touched his own face. It wasn't hot. He didn't feel anything. Graham slowly put down his phone, the pleasant smile gone, replaced by a smug, thuggish sneer. How else was I supposed to get you to bend the knee, Ms. Thorne? He stood up, looking down at her with triumph. Don't blame me, Ms. Thorne. Blame your family for being so powerful, and blame yourself for being a woman. He laughed, then clapped his hands sharply. Instantly, two men in black suits emerged from the lounge's private restroom. Get that bodyguard out of here, Graham ordered viciously. He'd been annoyed by the bodyguard from the start, hovering like a damn third wheel. His face was a mask of absolute victory as he loomed over Cassandra, who was now too weak to stand. I have to wonder, he purred, his voice dripping with greed and satisfaction. Without the antidote, just how will the high and mighty Cassandra Thorne beg me for it? Liam froze, his brow furrowed as he took in the scene. He was hesitating. What was the play here? Feign unconsciousness, or fight his way out? As the two men in black suits closed in, Cassandra let out a cold laugh. So this was your family's trap from the very beginning? Her face was flushed, her breathing noticeably heavier. That's right. Graham Vance's grin widened into a predatory sneer. He was shameless. Getting you means getting the Thorne family. This whole gala was arranged just for you. His face was alight with triumph. Tomorrow morning, when the press arrives and finds you with me, you can have 1,000 alibis, but you'll have no choice but to swallow this bitter pill. It was exactly as his grandfather had instructed. As the preeminent family in New York City, the Thornes rarely courted public attention, but a scandal of this magnitude would force their hand to protect their reputation. After all, Cassandra's own mother had agreed to this. The gala's ultimate purpose was a strategic meeting between him and the Thorne heiress, a de facto blind date to forge an alliance. Once he truly had Cassandra, the rest was just details, easily swept under the rug. Cassandra sneered again. The heat was rising within her, but she fought to keep her composure, her eyes flicking toward Liam. Are you just going to stand there? Liam subconsciously pressed his lips together. He'd underestimated them. So this was the Vance family's big move? If they were going to be tied up with Cassandra, wasn't this his perfect chance to escape? He narrowed his eyes at the approaching suits, then let his body go slack. With a theatrical sway, he collapsed onto the sofa, feigning weakness. Miss Thorne, I can't. I'm feeling dizzy, too. Liam shamelessly put on a show of frailty as the two men grabbed him by the arms. Cassandra's expression contorted, her eyes erupting with an unprecedented fury. Damn him. He dares to pretend to be unconscious. She was incandescent with rage, but the fire inside her burned hotter and hotter. Ha 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 ha. Seeing Liam collapse, Graham Vance roared with laughter. Cassandra! Oh, Cassandra, did you forget? Your bodyguard tasted your food for you. Cassandra bit her lip so hard the pain sharpened her focus. A murderous fire blazed in her eyes. Annie's corner. Sawyer snacks. DNA. She hissed, forcing the words out one by one. Graham heard it as gibberish, the ravings of a woman who'd lost her mind. He laughed so hard he clutched his stomach, tears welling in his eyes. My dear Miss Thorne, you've really lost it, haven't you? Ha ha. He had no idea what those words meant to Liam. They were the key words. The trigger. Liam, head bowed in his feigned collapse, gritted his teeth. Okay, so that's how you want to play it. Miss Thorne, allow me to help you, Graham said, his voice dripping with false concern as he staggered toward her, laughing. I see you've lost all reason. Liam watched his hand reach for Cassandra, and suddenly he clenched his fists. The instant Graham's fingers were about to touch Cassandra's arm, his world went black. It was followed by 2 piercing screams. God, Art. When Graham's vision cleared, he was shocked to find Liam standing before him. The 2 men in black were on the floor, clutching their stomachs and writhing in agony. You weren't. He wanted to ask how Liam was fine when he'd eaten the same food, but Liam didn't give him the chance to finish. He grabbed Graham's wrist. Graham cried out in pain and tried to pull away, but then a sickening crack echoed in the room as a crippling pain shot up his leg. His knee felt like it had been shattered, and he dropped to the ground, forced into a kneeling position. The next second, Liam wrenched his arm back, twisting it at an impossible angle. The searing pain from his limbs was excruciating. Graham's eyes widened in disbelief, but before he could ask another question, Liam slapped him across the face so hard he saw stars. Slap, slap, slap. A rapid series of blows left Graham's mouth bleeding, his face swelling into a purple mess before he slumped to the floor, unconscious. Liam shook his stinging hand and shrugged off his jacket, tossing it over Cassandra. After that smooth little combo, he said coldly, Is that sufficient, Miss Thorne? The scent of Liam. His jacket carried a distinct, clean masculine scent that only seemed to fuel the inferno already raging inside her. Cassandra's eyes were shot with blood. She didn't even seem to register what Liam had said. Her gaze, filled with venom, fixed on the bodies on the floor. Kill them, she commanded. Me? Liam was stunned. Use lethal force? Her? Asking him, kill the Van Cess? One of the 4 families? Are you kidding me? You're Cassandra Thorne. You do something like this, you've got an army of lawyers to clean it up. If I do it, I'll be on the run for the rest of my life. He was supposed to be free after this damn gala. He wasn't about to trade one prison for another. If you want them dead, do it yourself. I'm not interested in being a fugitive. He shot her an annoyed look. If you hadn't blackmailed me into this, I'd have faked a coma and been halfway to Mexico by now. Useless, Cassandra snarled, her reason already consumed by the drug. She pointed at a coil of rope Graham had prepared. Tie them up. That I can do. Liam nodded. He efficiently bound the 3 men, finishing with a series of professional, non-slip knots. He'd hit them harder than he'd intended. They wouldn't be waking up anytime soon. And even if they did, they'd be trussed up and helpless. For now, Cassandra was safe. Liam pressed his lips together. Maybe it was the adrenaline from the fight, but he felt a strange heat spreading through his own body. It hit him instantly. The food he'd eaten, no wonder. He'd only had a few bites, while Cassandra had eaten most of it. The drug was just hitting him now, much slower than it had for her. He had to get out of here. Now, before things got really bad. He clenched his fists and spoke in a low, firm voice. All right, they're taken care of. You're on your own, Miss Thorne. I'm leaving. He turned to walk away, but before he reached the door, Cassandra's voice, sharp as glass, cut through the air. Leave. Her eyes were crimson as she pushed herself into a sitting position, her gaze locked on him. If you take one step out that door, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth, and I will kill you myself. Liam's frustration boiled over. He spun around, his voice tight with anger. What more do you want from me? Carry me, Cassandra commanded, pointing a trembling finger toward the bedroom in the private lounge. It was the only one, undoubtedly, the one Graham Vance had so thoughtfully prepared for his trap. Carry her? Was she insane? In their current state, if they touched, it would be over. The drug was surging through him now, and all he wanted was to find the nearest shower and stand under ice-cold water. No, Liam bit out, turning on his heel. He strode into the attached bathroom and filled a large decorative basin with cold water. To prevent us both from losing it, you might want to brace yourself, Miss Thorne, he said, and without another word, he dumped the entire basin of water over her head. Splash! The deluge of cold water temporarily quenched the fire raging through her, and a sliver of Cassandra's reason returned. She didn't blame him. She just clutched his jacket tighter around herself, her hand closing around the paring knife from the abandoned fruit platter on the table. Her lips a tight line, she stalked toward Graham Vance. Liam had just splashed the remaining water on his own face, trying to achieve a similar core cooling effect, when he looked up and saw what she was doing. Before he could even shout a warning, he saw Cassandra grip the knife and plunge it viciously into Graham Vance's hand. Like a butcher at work, she sawed at the flesh. Graham was shocked awake by the searing pain. AHHH! he shrieked, a sound more animal than human. He struggled frantically, but the ropes held him fast. The woman standing over him was no longer an heiress. She was a demon, methodically dragging the small blade back and forth across his wrist. "It hurts! You crazy bitch, what are you doing?" Graham screamed, his face contorted in a mask of agony. "Dude, you're just figuring out she's a psycho now?" Liam thought, sucking in a breath. He was almost getting used to this. Rubbing his own wrist, he ducked his head and hurried back into the bathroom for more water. The sound of the rushing faucet couldn't completely drown out the pig-like squeals from the other room. Liam emerged with another basin of water just as Cassandra was continuing her grim work. He couldn't help but say, "Miss Thorne, I don't think this room is completely soundproof." He'd heard everything clearly from the bathroom. There were security guards outside. If she kept this up, it wouldn't be long before someone burst in. When they saw this scene, nobody was walking away clean. At least he still had his wits about him. Cassandra had ingested too much of the drug. She might not be thinking that far ahead. "Don't worry." Cassandra's voice was a low growl, her blood-soaked hand never pausing. A cruel smile touched her lips. "You think the Van Cess would set a trap like this without ensuring complete privacy?" Damn, she had a point. Liam realized the lounge must be soundproofed after all. Miss Thorne, please, have mercy. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Aha! Graham's face was a twisted mess of pain and terror. He could see his own hand, nearly severed, hanging by a thread of flesh. This was his right hand, the one he used for everything. All he could do now was beg. Cassandra acted as if she couldn't hear his desperate cries. As she continued her work, she barked, "Water! Coming right up." Liam, who had been standing by, ready, poured another basin of cold water over her. It was the only thing keeping them both tethered to sanity. As the water washed the blood across the expensive carpet, Liam's stomach churned. This was starting to feel like a murder scene, a dismemberment. Wow, it really does. Just as Cassandra finished her work, Graham finally passed out from the pain. She casually tossed the knife down next to his ruined hand and stood up, stumbling slightly. The fire was still raging inside her. Suppressing the flames, she saw Liam heading back to the bathroom for more water. Her eyes narrowed. Kicking off her high heels, she followed him in. Liam, busy at the sink, felt a wave of heat wash over him. He didn't know what this stuff was, but he'd only had a little, and the effect was overwhelming. He was about to douse his own head under the faucet when a sudden shove sent him sprawling. He lost his footing and crashed into the large, empty bathtub. The impact rattled his bones. He managed to flip over, but before he could get to his feet, a shadow fell over him. Cassandra, losing her own battle for balance, fell directly on top of him. The instant her warm skin met his, Liam's mind went blank with heat. In his last moment of coherent thought, he reached out with all his remaining strength and turned the shower knob as far as it would go. After that, he knew nothing. His final sensory impression was of splashing water and an overwhelming, all-consuming absurdity. When consciousness returned, Liam felt as if his hands and feet were pruned to the bone. Cassandra was standing over him, fully dressed. She was on the phone. "Yes, handle the situation outside." "Imbecile. Say it was a kidnapping attempt. Lock down the hotel." Hearing the sound of water shifting behind her, Cassandra ended the call. Her expression was back to normal, but her eyes were still chips of ice. She advanced on him, her steps deliberate. "I can't believe it. Even at a time like this, all you could think about was running away." Liam, still trying to sit up, blinked. Cassandra stepped forward, placing one foot on the edge of the tub and leaning down to look him straight in the eye. "I was just testing you. I can't believe that after all this time, you're still the same." "What are you talking about?" Liam was completely lost. Was he still dreaming? Her words made no sense. "A test? You mean this whole gala was a test for me?" It suddenly clicked. "But this was your mother's." "I naturally listened to my mother's wishes," Cassandra said, her face unreadable. "This was just a convenient opportunity." Her gaze on him sharpened, becoming more severe. Liam finally understood. It all made sense now. Why Cassandra would agree to such a gala. Why she would bring him along with such confidence. She had been waiting for this all along. But so what? What's the point of testing me? You already know what I want, don't you? He grabbed the edge of the tub and pulled himself up, snatching a towel to wrap around his waist. All he had ever wanted was his freedom. He couldn't care less about the Thorne heiress. No matter how many times she tested him, his answer would always be the same. Perhaps it was his utter indifference, his willingness to just check out, that provoked her. Cassandra's brow tightened. If she didn't have leverage over him, he would have walked away without a second thought, just like the first time. After all this time together, He hadn't shown a single flicker of desire to stay. This man was truly different. Cassandra seemed to understand something then. She lowered her leg, her eyes assessing him. Her intense stare made his skin crawl. Liam stepped out of the tub. "Why are you staring at me?" he asked, suddenly uncomfortable. He needed a change. His head was throbbing where he'd hit it falling into the tub. Cassandra, on the other hand, had landed on him. She had woken up first, gotten dressed, and was now perfectly composed. It made him feel strangely exposed. As Liam picked up his soaking wet clothes, about to pull them on, he heard Cassandra's enigmatic voice. "I just need to know, what do I have to do to make myself unforgettable to you?" "Lady, is it possible I've already memorized you?" Liam asked, the corner of his mouth twitching. Cassandra's eyes lit up. "Really? No kidding," Liam grumbled. Anyone who had survived the last few insane days with her would have it burned into their memory. This Miss Thorne was the first true psychopath he'd ever met. It was an experience he had no desire to repeat. Cassandra watched him dress, her gaze growing deeper, more intense. After a long moment, she spoke abruptly. "No. What no?" Liam had managed to pull on his damp clothes. The feeling was miserable, and he was desperate to get out and find something dry. But Cassandra was blocking his path, speaking in riddles. "It's not this feeling," Cassandra murmured, her eyes narrowing. For some reason, seeing his complete nonchalance stirred a painful feeling in her chest. Every time that ache surfaced, it felt like a sharp pang in her heart. She didn't know what this feeling was, this desire to be the only thing in his eyes, to make him go mad for her. But instead, he was just indifferent. It was infuriating. It made her anxious and angry. She had so much, yet she couldn't possess Liam's attention. The lack of control was tearing her apart. Staring at the silent Cassandra, Liam couldn't be bothered to decipher her mood. Eager to change, he grabbed his waterlogged phone. "If there's nothing else, Miss Thorne, I'll be going." He paused, then added, "I hope you'll keep your end of the bargain." Cassandra remained standing there, silent. She watched him turn and leave. When the bathroom door clicked shut, the sound seemed to jolt her back to life. Her hand trembled as she pressed it against her heart. It was beating frantically. She had never felt this impulsive urge to possess someone before. She bit her lip, her expression darkening. She really needed to calm down. Just as she was about to turn on the shower for another blast of cold water, her phone buzzed. A glance at the caller ID made her scowl as she answered. "Sis, I heard Mom set you up on a blind date. Is it true?" A curious and excited female voice chirped from the other end. Cassandra didn't respond. The voice, belonging to a young woman who was clearly thrilled, continued its cheerful assault. "So did you go? What was the guy like?" "Sis, how could you have so much fun without me? Where are you guys now?" "I just landed at JFK. I'm coming to find you right now." "Miss Riley, you have a press conference to attend. I'm afraid your schedule today is shut up. Postponed the press conference. Can't you see I have an emergency?" Riley's excited outburst was immediately followed by an anxious female voice, and the two began to argue. The noise gave Cassandra a headache. She pinched the bridge of her nose and said coldly, "Riley Thorne, you will listen to Paige, or I will personally ship you to a work camp in Indonesia." "No way, sis, just tell me. I'm your only sister. How can you be so cruel?" Tired of Riley's theatrical shrieking, Cassandra hung up without hesitation. Her head throbbed from her sister's grating voice. A cold draft slipped through a crack in the bathroom window, making her shiver. She wrapped herself in a dry bathrobe and stepped out, only to find Haley Liu and a team of security waiting for her. "Miss Thorne," Haley said, bowing her head, her expression grim. "The gala ended at midnight last night. The other guests have left. We've dealt with the Vance family security outside, but Mr. Vance Sr. is still staying downstairs." She was reporting the facts, but her tone was serious. She could smell the faint, metallic scent of blood in the air. Cassandra's face was a dark mask. "Clean them out," she said, her voice like ice. "And tell Grant Vance I'll be waiting for him at the Zenith Tower penthouse." Grant Vance was the patriarch's name. Cassandra was not normally one to disrespect her elders, but by using his full name now, she was making it clear. She was furious. Haley didn't dare hesitate. "Yes, miss. Right away." She motioned for her team, and they moved into the private lounge. "My sister is so heartless, saying she's going to send me to Indonesia. She's the worst." In the VIP lounge at JFK Airport, Riley Thorne, having been unceremoniously disconnected, was so angry she nearly threw her phone. Paige stood beside her, looking utterly helpless. "Miss Riley, we really need to leave. The press conference starts in half an hour." Press conference, that's all you ever talk about." Riley snatched a pillow from the sofa and threw it. The pillow bounced harmlessly off Paige, who seemed entirely accustomed to this behavior. She calmly picked it up and placed it back on the sofa. Riley grabbed another and threw it. Paige picked it up. After a few rounds, Riley's anger had visibly subsided. She calmed down, looked at her phone, then at Paige, and asked suddenly, "Paige, a few days ago you said my sister brought a guy home. Was that for real?" Paige paused, frowning. It was something Evelyn Reed mentioned in passing, but she stopped halfway through. "It seems Miss Thorne doesn't want anyone to know." "Ooh." Riley drew out the sound, raising an eyebrow. A mischievous grin spread across her face. "Now, that's interesting." "What's interesting?" Paige asked, confused. As if she were used to explaining her schemes, Riley smiled sweetly. "My sister brings a random guy home, and now my mom sets her up on a blind date. You don't think that's interesting?" Paige's mouth twitched. She had no idea how to respond. But Riley seemed to have a plan already. Her eyes narrowed in a sly smile. She tapped her chin, murmuring, "It seems Mom doesn't know about the man my sister brought home." She turned to Paige, her expression shifting to one of pitiful vulnerability. "Paige, could you do me a favor and find out who that man is?" As the leader of a popular girl group, Riley Thorne had amassed a huge following with her playful charm. Unlike Cassandra's cold arrogance, Riley was cute and endearing, her every move filled with a quirky spirit. Paige was usually powerless against this kind of full-on charm offensive. But this involved Cassandra. She couldn't agree rashly. "Miss Riley, this is Miss Thorne's private business. I'm afraid I can't." "Wah." Riley's eyes instantly welled with tears. She pouted, her voice trembling. How could some guy she picked up off the street be reliable? I'm just worried my sister will get hurt." Her voice dropped to a wheedling whisper. "Paige, you're the best. Please help me." Her claim of being worried was a bit of stretch. Her curiosity was the real driver. She was dying of it. Although she'd been living abroad since she came of age and wasn't in NYC often, she and Cassandra were still very close. The Thorne family was vast and powerful, but the direct line consisted of only the two sisters. It was because Cassandra had shown astonishing self-discipline and academic talent from a young age that she was groomed to be the heir. Riley, who consistently failed her academic courses, had far less pressure on her. Riley knew perfectly well that it was because of her sister that she could live such a carefree life. But her sister had always been completely uninterested in men. There had never been a single man in her life, aside from bodyguards. Even the servants at their townhouse were all women. And now she'd brought a man home? When Riley got the news, her jaw nearly hit the floor. She'd immediately canceled all her performances just to fly back and see this man for herself. Then, before she even boarded the plane, she heard about the blind date her mother had arranged. Frantic, she called the second she landed. She had to know who this guy was. Faced with Riley's full-power charm assault, Paige could only sigh in defeat. All right, I'll look into it. But Miss Riley, if we don't leave now, we're really going to be late." With that concession, Riley had no reason to delay further. She jumped to her feet, a look of eager anticipation in her eyes, and headed for the door. Let's go. Let's see just how deep the waters of the New York entertainment scene really are." Back at the Hilton, Liam finally changed out of his soaking wet clothes. He'd even been charged an extra $50 by the car service driver for a cleaning fee because of his damp attire. Staring at his water-damaged phone that refused to turn on, Liam sighed. He should have just had Cassandra arrange a car for him. Now his phone was toast. Oh well, he was finally free from the Thorne family's gilded cage. A phone was just a phone. He could replace it. Out with the old, in with the new. Liam took his SIM card and went to the nearest chain electronics store. He picked out a new phone, popped in the card, and powered it on. After paying, Liam saw several missed calls and a flood of messages. "Khloe, Sias, brother Liam, I got promoted to department manager. My boss said I did a great job, and they even gave me a company apartment. Carl Sawyer. Bro, you weren't picking up? Where you at? Brandon Jung called me. Said he wants you to come in for an interview today at 10. Liam frowned at Khloe's message. A promotion and raise was one thing, but a whole apartment? Could this be another one of Cassandra's schemes? He checked the timestamp. It was from a day he'd left the Thorne estate, right after he'd made his deal with Cassandra. And when he'd left today, Haley Liu and her team hadn't tried to stop him. It probably had nothing to do with him. Liam let out a breath of relief and typed a simple congratulations. Khloe seemed to be busy and didn't reply immediately. He switched to his chat with Carl Sawyer. "Liam, I'm here. Drank a little too much last night. Slept in. Phone died. Should I head over now?" Carl called him instantly. Liam answered. "Bro, you're finally alive. I'll send you the address. You can head over now. When you get there, just ask for Brandon Jung." Got it. Thanks a lot. For what? We're brothers, don't mention it. By the way, what was the deal with those two groups of people who came looking for you before? Liam's eyes flickered. Nothing. Don't worry about them. You got it. Carl's laugh crackled over the phone. I figured you didn't want to deal with them. I sent them packing last time they showed up. Don't worry. The fact that you were working as an extra is between you and me. No one else knows. A warmth spread through Liam's chest. Say what you will, but his real friends truly understood him. I appreciate that, man. Seriously. There you go again. Anyway, I won't keep you. The factory just got a big order I gotta run. We'll grab a drink soon. Definitely. After hanging up, Liam saw the location and phone number Carl had sent. The address was less than 3 miles away. Without hesitating, he checked out of the Hilton and headed straight there. When he arrived, he saw a tall building with a sign that read, New Horizon Entertainment. This must be it. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number. Following Brandon Jing's directions, Liam took the elevator to the 15th floor. The moment the doors opened, he saw an average-looking guy in a plaid shirt standing there, phone in hand. The man's eyes widened in surprise the instant he saw Liam. Liam, it's really you. Liam was stunned too. A flashback to college hit him. The head of the cultural committee had looked just like this. The face from his memory merged with the name Brandon Jung. So that's why the name had sounded so familiar. Man, I can't believe it. You changed so much. I didn't even recognize you with all the filters on your profile picture online. Brandon laughed, pulling Liam inside. Hey, what was with you working in a factory after graduation? That's all in the past, Liam replied with a casual smile. Seeing that he didn't want to talk about it, Brandon dropped the subject and led him into his office. Since we're old friends, I'll skip the formalities. I'm putting together a new show and we're short one male guest. Your look is absolutely perfect for it. Liam blinked. I thought you said it was for a background actor role. Background actor? Are you kidding? Brandon slapped Liam on the shoulder. A guy with your looks? It would be a total waste to have you as an extra. Besides, he added, we're old classmates. You think I'd set you up with a crappy gig? Brandon was surprisingly thoughtful. An extra makes maybe $200 a day. If you sign off my reality show, I can guarantee you at least this much for the week. Brandon held up 3 fingers. Liam was taken aback. 30,000? Dude, think bigger. Liam's eyelid twitched. 300,000. Close. Brandon's face was one giant grin. 50,000. Liam's eyes widened in disbelief. Wait, Brandon. I'm a complete nobody. Why are you offering me so much? Doesn't matter if you're a nobody. This show is all about the visuals. And I've already arranged for a mysterious celebrity guest to make an appearance. Brandon poured him a cup of tea, then leaned in conspiratorially. Between you and me, brother, once you're in this business, you'll see. The money is ridiculously easy to make. Liam's mouth twitched. He knew times were changing fast. He had originally planned to get the Hamiltons into e-commerce, but then he'd been kicked out of the family, and that goal had been abandoned. He had never been in the entertainment industry, but if Brandon said it was easy, he was willing to give it a shot. All right, let's draw up the contract then, Liam said, straight to the point. With a friend's recommendation, there was no need for a lot of back and forth. No problem. Brandon grinned, producing a pre-prepared contract. This was actually for another newcomer, but he had a last-minute conflict. The name isn't even filled in yet. It's all yours. Liam took the contract and began flipping through it, page by page. Seeing this, Brandon shifted uncomfortably. What's wrong, man? You think I'd screw you over on the contract? It's not that. Liam shook his head, still scanning the document. It's precisely because we're friends that I need to read it carefully. That way, if anything comes up later, it won't affect our relationship. Brandon had been a little put off, feeling suspected. But Liam's explanation cleared the air instantly. He nodded in support. You're right, brother. You're absolutely right. Take a close look. If anything's not right, we'll hash it out. Liam said, focusing on the contract. There were no hidden traps. It stipulated his participation in a show where 4 men and 3 women would spend a week of hellish life on a scenic island. The show was live-streamed, and each night the guests could vote for a member of the opposite sex to spend time with. If 2 people chose each other, they would win a trip to a luxury villa arranged by the production team. Just reading the show's description made Liam frown. Wasn't this just one of those popular dating reality shows? 4 men and 3 women. One guy was guaranteed to be left out every time. Still, $50,000 for 1 week. The contract made Liam's heart sing. He didn't care who else was on the show. For that kind of money, they could film him hunting for lizards in the wilderness. He'd do it. After a final check, Liam signed his name and added his thumbprint. When do we start recording? Tomorrow. Everyone else is already confirmed. We were just waiting on you. Brandon took the contract and shouted toward the door. Lou, a young man with glasses rushed in. Yes, Director Jean. get our number 4 male guest set up with a place to stay, and prepare his outfit for tomorrow's entrance. Brandon then turned back to Liam. Brother, if you've got any personal business, wrap it up tonight. Once we're on the yacht tomorrow, no more phones. Got it. Liam had no objections. For 50 grand, what was a week without a phone? Led by Lou, Liam was shown to a private room on the 14th floor, furnished just like a hotel room with all the necessary amenities. Mr. Lynn, please get a good night's rest, Lou said. Please be downstairs promptly at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I'll have a car ready to take you to the docks. Liam nodded. After Lou left, he closed the door and took a long, hot shower. Afterward, he ordered some food delivery to tide him over. Perhaps because the previous night had been so nerve-wracking, Liam fell into a deep sleep almost as soon as he lay down. Cassandra Thorne, you have some nerve, laying a hand on my grandson. At the Zenith Tower penthouse, Grant Vance stormed into Cassandra's office, his voice booming with rage the moment he stepped through the door. He'd woken up that morning to the news that his precious grandson was in the emergency room, his life hanging by a thread. He had rushed to the hospital without even changing his shoes, only to be told by the doctor that Graham was in surgery from massive blood loss, and his severed hand had become necrotic and could not be reattached. The doctor said it looked like it had been deliberately sawed off with a knife. Grant Vance nearly fainted from rage. Then, his assistant reported that Cassandra Thorne was waiting for him at her penthouse. Seeing his son and daughter-in-law, red-eyed and distraught as they stood vigil at the hospital, he had suppressed his fury and rushed over, only to find the culprit calmly sipping tea in her office. He was about to explode. Are you going to say something? You dare to touch my family? Do you think the Thornes can just do whatever they want? Grant Vance was seething, but Cassandra's bodyguards stood around him, their eyes like stone. Cassandra leisurely set down her coffee cup, her gaze sweeping over him, dark and cold as ink, carrying a chilling indifference that could pierce through anything. Even Grant Vance, a man of his age and experience, felt a tremor of fear. He had met Cassandra once when she was a child, but she was so young then, it was hard to tell anything. In just a dozen years, she had changed so drastically. The sheer ferocity radiating from her was enough to command any room. He understood that while she might be a young woman, she was not to be trifled with. But this business with his grandson was far from over. If the Thorne family didn't pay dearly for this, he would not rest. What are you looking at? You're just a girl. How can your heart be so vicious? What did my grandson ever do to you that you would cut off his hand? If the Thorne family doesn't give my family an explanation for this, none of us are walking away from it. Cassandra raised her eyes slightly, a cold smile playing on her lips. She crossed her legs, her expression detached. What did the Vance family do? Are you telling me you don't know, Grant? Grant was taken aback, then recovered. So what? No matter what, you shouldn't have been so ruthless. So what if they drug her? If Cassandra didn't want it, she could have just refused. His grandson had lost a hand. Huh? Cassandra laughed at that, a chilling sound. Her eyes flashed, her tone becoming razor sharp. I was merciful not to kill him. Grant, if you say one more word, do you believe I can make the Vance family disappear from the 4 families within 3 days? Grant Vance never expected Cassandra to be so brazen. But she had only been in charge for less than 3 years, and the 4 families had long-standing private alliances. The Thorne family was powerful, but for Cassandra to single-handedly bring down the Vances? Impossible. With this thought, he calmed down. He glared at Cassandra and sneered. Miss Thorne, you're a bit too confident, aren't you? You've been in charge for less than 3 years. Do you really think you have what it takes to stand against the 4 families? Cassandra narrowed her eyes. She glanced at a message that popped up on her phone screen on the desk, and a slow, deliberate smile spread across her face. Oh, is that so? Following Cassandra's gaze, Grant Vance's heart sank. The next second, his assistant burst into the room, his face a mask of panic. Sir, the warehouse is on the outskirts of the city. All the employees have suddenly gone on strike. What? Grant's eyes bulged. He slapped his assistant across the face. The sharp crack was followed by his furious roar. You useless fool. How could they all go on strike? Everything was fine before. I don't know, the assistant wailed, clutching his face. It's not just the workers. All the department managers walked out too. The factories are at a complete standstill. Our shipment deadlines are the day after tomorrow. Even if we rush to hire new people, we'll never make it in time. Listening to his assistant's tearful report, Grant's vision went black. His body trembled violently, and he staggered backward. The assistant, quick on his feet, caught him just before he hit the floor. Clutching his chest, Grant stared at Cassandra in disbelief. What did you do? Nothing much, Cassandra said, crossing her arms and watching him with an amused expression. Just a little maneuver. However, here, her expression shifted, her voice turning venomous. I had assumed you came here to apologize, Mr. Vance. Since you came to blame me instead, don't expect any mercy. She smirked at him. As he watched in stunned silence, she raised an arm, paused for a beat, and gave a slight, dismissive wave. Escort Mr. Vance out. I wouldn't want him to have a heart attack in my office and blame me for not resuscitating him. Yes, ma'am. Palmer and the others acknowledged the order and moved in. The bodyguards seized Grant Vance and his assistant and began to drag them out. Seeing the ruthless look on Cassandra's face, Grant finally understood. She wasn't bluffing. He gasped for air, his mouth agape, but no words came out. He was unceremoniously hauled out of the penthouse. Silence returned to the office. Cassandra picked up her phone and typed a message to Haley Liu. Tell them they can proceed with the contracts now. Haley's reply was immediate. Yes, ma'am. Putting her phone down, Cassandra smiled. She hadn't really had a way to cripple the Vances before. At best, she could only issue a warning. But she had never expected the promise of a pay raise to be so effective. She'd simply had Haley promise the striking workers triple their original monthly salary, with the added perk of being able to buy company stock once Thorn Corp completed the acquisition. To her surprise, they had agreed almost instantly, as if possessed. It was the first time she'd tried such a tactic. She'd never realized the power that the workers held, and she had Liam to thank for it. If not for him, she would never have thought to attack from the bottom up. She sent another message, this time to Evelyn Reed. Inform the other 3 families of the Vance family's dirty dealings. Her meaning was clear. As long as they didn't interfere, the Thorne family would not target them. Soon, news of the mass strike at the Vance factory spread throughout New York's elite circles. Everyone in the upper echelons heard the rumors, but no one made a move. It was undoubtedly the work of the Thorne family. For years, though the Thornes were the dominant power, they had maintained a peaceful coexistence with the other 4 families. Now, with this incident, the other 3 families were on edge. Within half an hour, the heads of the Walsh, Orwell, and Landon families convened a meeting. What is the meaning of this? Has Cassandra Thorne lost her mind? She just took over, and she's already playing this hardball? Warren Walsh roared before he even sat down. Warren, look at you, always so hasty, Owen Orwell said with a smile, gesturing for him to sit. We don't have all the facts yet. What are you panicking for? What am I panicking for? How can I not panic? She's going after the Vances now. If we don't unite, who knows who will be next? Warren couldn't calm down, fidgeting in his seat as if on pins and needles. Across from him, Lawrence Landon was much calmer. He took the phone his assistant handed him and glanced at it. Warren, relax. Take a look for yourself. The Vances brought this on themselves. The Thorne said that as long as we don't interfere, it has nothing to do with us. And you believe that girl at a time like this? Hey, I think Lawrence has a point. Owen Orwell interjected, his eyes crinkling with a smile. The Vances really did bring this on themselves. Greed gets you nowhere. I say we should take this opportunity to carve up their assets. We could get a piece of the pie, but that girl's methods are truly ruthless. She's not even considering her own bottom line. What are you talking about? We've taken plenty for ourselves over the years, Lawrence Landon added. A rare interjection. Even if she raises the wages, there's still a lot of profit left over. But I think this whole affair serves as a warning for us. What kind of warning? Warren asked. We should all consider raising our employees' wages, Lawrence suggested. We've been at this for years. We can afford it. Owen Orwell nodded enthusiastically. Lawrence is right. It'll also prevent that girl from using the same trick on us later. Warren nodded, pulling out his phone. I'll have my assistant inform our Swiss office right now. The day after Liam surrendered his phone and boarded the yacht, a series of headlines exploded across the financial news. Hashtag Vance Industries bankrupt. Hashtag rival families carve up Vance assets. Hashtag 3 major core announce wage hikes. Hashtag did you get a raise? And so on. The news cycle was relentless, the situation constantly evolving. Meanwhile, Liam was still in his cabin on the yacht, catching up on sleep. While the financial world was in an uproar, the entertainment world wasn't quiet either. At 10 a.m., the reality show Hell or Paradise began its live broadcast. Thanks to the pre-show hype, nearly 100,000 viewers tuned in at the start. As the first few contestants were introduced, Liam was woken by a knock on his door. He sleepily pulled the door open to find Lou, the production assistant, looking frantic. Liam, my man, how are you still sleeping? The other guests have already made their entrance. Liam stretched. Oh, okay, let's go then. Oh my God, Lou yelped, pushing Liam back into the cabin. Go change your clothes. You can't make your entrance in your pajamas. The other contestants were all meticulously styled. How did he end up with the one guy who was this casual? Liam snapped back to reality and looked down at his gray pajamas. He nodded, closed the door, and started to change. On the island, as the final female guest made her entrance, Brandon Jung excitedly slapped his cameraman on the back. "Quick, camera, focus, lights." The crew sprang into action, adjusting lights, holding up reflectors, cueing the dramatic entrance music. On the steps leading down to the beach, a young woman in an orange crop top and matching shorts appeared, clutching a giant teddy bear. Her platinum blonde hair cascaded down to her waist, and her perfectly applied makeup highlighted her playful, adorable features. Her appearance immediately sent the live chat into a frenzy. Kawashima007. Whoa, the secret guest is Sienna Noir? Gossip King. Isn't she the one with the powerful backing? I heard she's got serious connections. Went straight to the top after her debut. Sailor Moon fan. This production team is insane. They actually got Sienna Shaw. Moneybags 88. I mean, this is a dating show, right? Bringing a teddy bear seems a little off. The live chat exploded. Sienna waved cheerfully at the camera and followed the designated path to a set of wooden benches where two other women were already seated. Makeup guru Misty Rain and mega influencer Gia Quinn. Both women had been generating a lot of buzz before the show started, but the moment Sienna appeared, they were instantly overshadowed. It wasn't just that Sienna was the leader of the hottest girl group of the moment, loved for her cute looks and quirky dance moves. More importantly, rumor had it that she had an unshakable, powerful family behind her. This wasn't just competition, it was a complete demolition. Even though Sienna had been primarily active overseas, her popularity was immense. Her return to the US scene was already a hot topic. Soon, she was the #1 trending topic in entertainment news. Hashtag Sienna Shaw is the secret guest, hashtag Hell or Paradise blows up. Against their heavy makeup, Sienna's platinum blonde hair and fresh-faced, innocent beauty stood out, utterly dominating the frame. The other two women's faces fell, but they forced smiles for the camera. Meanwhile, Liam, having just disembarked from the yacht, was on his way. "Come on, Liam, can you walk a little faster? The director has called me like 5 times. Lou, leading the way, looked like his head was about to explode. What had he done to deserve this? All the other contestants had made their entrance, and the one he was in charge of was still sleeping off a nap. "Hello, Director Jung? Okay, I understand." In the middle of his grumbling, Lou took a call. His tense expression immediately relaxed. He slowed his pace and turned back to Liam. "Never mind, Liam. No rush. The director says he wants you to be the last one to enter." "Sounds good to me," Liam said, slowing his pace as well. Lou was speechless. "Good for you, maybe. If you hadn't overslept, we wouldn't have to make you the grand finale." Back on the beach, the production team played a pre-recorded teaser, and then it was time for the men's entrances. Hector, a gym franchise owner, a classic muscle-bound hunk. Julian, the CEO of a major retail group, the company's pillar, a suave, glasses-wearing intellectual. Milo, the son of a prominent real estate developer, a rich playboy with a devil-may-care attitude. As the 3 men made their entrance, the show reached a fever pitch. Though it was a standard dating show format, this season had a twist. For men, 3 women. The 6 who had appeared so far were all top tier. Good-looking, wealthy, and successful. It was hard to imagine which guy would be the unlucky one left out. Commenter: "Hey, the last guy must be the main event, right?" Commenter: "Probably. The first few are so impressive. They have to be saving the best for last." Commenter: "You don't think they actually got a major movie star, do you?" Commenter: "Totally possible." The viewers in the live chat were buzzing with speculation. Just as Brandon was about to call and hurry things along again, Liam finally appeared at the top of the steps. Brandon breathed a sigh of relief and signaled for the cameras to turn. In an instant, Liam, dressed in a sharp, well-fitting suit, filled the screen. He was tall and lean, the top button of his shirt done up, his lips pressed into a thin line. He exuded an aura of cool detachment, a pure, unadulterated keep-your-distance vibe. The moment he appeared, Sienna, sitting on the bench, straightened up. A slow, deep smile spread across her face. The live chat went into meltdown. Commenter: "Holy crap, isn't that the hot factory guy from that viral video?" Commenter: "What is this show doing, inviting a blue-collar worker?" Commenter: "El mio, I think this is way more fun. You got a bunch of CEOs and rich kids, and now you throw in a working-class guy? A literal factory dog." Commenter: "I'm dying. This production team is genius." Commenter: "Okay, but say what you want, that factory guy is seriously handsome." Gilded Rose just sent a Porsche. Liam, of course, couldn't see the live chat. If he had, he would have been speechless. Following Brandon's directions, he walked toward the benches. Compared to the god-tier resumes of the other 6 contestants, Liam was a complete nobody. After the others sat down, they immediately started chatting and laughing with each other. When Liam arrived, no one even tried to talk to him. It was painfully obvious who the designated clown of this dating show was going to be. The production team, masters of their craft, opened a poll as soon as all 7 had arrived. Hashtag who do you think will be voted out first? The 10-minute poll ended quickly. Unsurprisingly, Liam shot straight to number 1. It was a no-brainer. Who would pass up 3 talented, wealthy bosses for a factory worker? Liam was completely oblivious to all this. Being ignored suited him just fine. It saved him the effort of making small talk. He was only here for the paycheck anyway. Having skipped breakfast, he immediately reached for the untouched fruit platter on the table and began to feast. His actions sent the live chat into a new wave of hysterics. Commenter, that's me. If I were there, I'd be all over that fruit platter. Commenter, the rich guys won't touch it, but I'm drooling just looking at it. Commenter, so real. He really is a factory guy. Watching the soaring viewer numbers and the flood of comments, Brandon finally smiled. He had originally planned to cast some B-list celebrity, but Liam's factory guy persona had unexpectedly become a massive talking point. He clapped his hands and stood up. Welcome, everyone, to hell or paradise. For the next week, you'll have to survive using only the resources we've provided. I hope you all have a wonderful time. With that, Brandon shot Liam a quick wink and was the first to leave the island. Taking half the crew with him, he boarded the yacht and departed, leaving only the essential camera operators behind. The live broadcast continued. I assume everyone signed a contract to be here? Julian pushed up his glasses, his CEO management style immediately apparent. Yeah, I was bored. The show looked interesting, so I figured why not, Milo said with a cocky grin, sprawling his legs wide in a picture of casual arrogance. Julian nodded and took the lead. All right, let's see what they left us. We should divide things up, otherwise we won't last the week. He stood and began taking inventory of the supplies. Let's sort out the ladies' things first. Ladies first, right? Hector chimed in, also getting to his feet. He then made a show of rolling up the sleeves of his t-shirt, pulling them all the way up to his shoulders. This not-so-subtle flexing of his muscles made Liam roll his eyes. He picked up the last slice of watermelon and found a good spot to watch the drama unfold. He didn't notice Sienna, seated diagonally across from him, staring at him with a look of intense amusement. Soon, Julian had inventoried all the supplies. But when his eyes landed on the tents, he frowned. The production team only gave us 3 tents. What? Hector was stunned. He rushed over to check for himself. Confirming there were only 3, he was just as baffled. Is this? Did they make a mistake? 3 tents. How are we supposed to split these? What do we split them? Milo sneered. Do we even need to? Isn't it obvious? 3 couples. From the very beginning, he hadn't even considered Liam as part of the equation. 3 men, 3 women. A perfect match. Where did this factory guy fit in? His comment drew disapproving looks from the others. Everyone knew what he meant. Of the 6 people present, all were successful and capable. The only one who didn't belong was Liam. Hector and Julian, though they didn't agree, didn't argue either. They exchanged a look and then glanced at the women. Misty Rain bit her lip and spoke up first. I think the tents are for those who stay on the island. We get to choose, right? Right. Gia Quinn nodded in agreement. Even if we don't match up with anyone, 3 of us squeezing into 1 tent should be fine. The men didn't respond, their gazes all shifting in perfect unison to Sienna. At that moment, Sienna, having materialized 2 lollipops from somewhere, unwrapped one and popped in her mouth. She held the other one out to Liam. Big brother, she said with a sweet smile. I saw you eating all that watermelon. You must be starving. Everyone froze. Liam blinked. Huh. Sienna's eyes crinkled in a smile. You should have this to get your energy up. The sun is really strong out here. It would be a shame if you fainted from heat stroke. The first part of her sentence sounded normal enough, but the second part sent a shiver down Liam's spine. There was something about the playful malice in her tone that felt familiar. But he looked at her again, the delicate makeup, the cute way she hugged her giant teddy bear, and took a deep breath. No, it's just a resemblance. He paused for a moment before taking the lollipop and stuffing it into his pocket. The smile in Sienna's eyes deepened. She hugged her plush bear tighter, her lips curved in a knowing smirk. Her adorable appearance ignited a protective instinct in the other 3 men. So cute, I want to, Milo thought, licking his lips greedily. Ahem. Julian cleared his throat, his leadership aura returning. I think we should divide the tents. The 3 ladies can take one, and the 4 of us will split the other 2. Any objections? Misty and Gia naturally nodded in agreement, but Milo grew agitated. "Then I'll share a tent with you," he declared, making it clear he had no intention of rooming with Liam. What was there to talk about with a damn factory worker? Julian looked awkwardly at Hector, who just gave a resigned nod. Just as Julian was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Sienna's voice piped up. "I want to share a tent with him." Following Sienna's pointing finger, everyone stared in stunned silence. Liam froze, pointing at himself. "Me? The top female idol wants to share a tent with a factory worker?" At the same time, the live chat exploded. Commenter, WHOA, things are getting spicy on day one. Commenter, I saw it earlier, Sienna has been staring at Liam this whole time. Commenter, no way, they're sharing a tent? Does that mean the nightly vote is already decided? Commenter, if both of them are into it, I guess they don't need to go through the motions, right? Commenter, damn, this factory worker is so lucky. Can they open up a sign-up sheet? I want to go. Commenter, this guy must have stepped in some serious good luck. Back on the island, Julian was the first to recover from the shock. "Miss Shaw," he stammered, "it's only the first day. Don't you think this might not be the best look?" "Yeah, why do you have to stay with him? Let's you and I share a tent." Milo's teeth were practically grinding. He had been looking forward to watching Liam's downfall, and now the guy was the first one to get picked? How was he supposed to save face? Misty and Gia's faces paled. As female guests, with Sienna having already chosen a man to stay with, if they held back now, they'd risk being labeled as coy or difficult. They both glanced at the remaining men, already calculating who to choose later. "I'll stay with whoever I want. What's it to you?" Sienna snapped at Julian, her tone a complete 180 from the sweet, playful girl of a moment ago. The sudden shift left everyone stunned. Shaking himself out of his stupor, Liam swallowed hard. Sienna's move had just thrown him directly into the spotlight. He was just a working guy trying to earn a paycheck. Why did they have to drag him into this? He had just escaped the clutches of one demon, Cassandra. He had no desire to be targeted by another. Liam casually tossed his watermelon rind aside. In front of everyone, he rummaged through the pile of supplies and pulled out a hammock. As the others watched in astonishment, he calmly announced, "You guys take the tents? I'll just sleep in the trees." With that, he walked over to a cluster of trees, quickly strung up the hammock, and hopped in, closing his eyes for a nap. Everyone was dumbfounded. The live chat scrolled furiously. Commenter, he rejected her. Holy S hashtag anti. Commenter, Sienna's got powerful connections. He probably doesn't dare to mess with her. Commenter, it's not easy being a working man. You finally get on a show and you get pushed around by the elite. Commenter, they literally bullied our factory guy into a tree. Sienna stared at Liam, dozing in the distance, a strange, unreadable glint in her eyes. He refused? This man, he's actually interesting. Oh, Spencer, you're so amazing. No, my little Jessica is the amazing one. Oh yes, right there. In the VIP suite of the Hilton, two soft moans echoed, followed shortly by a man's guttural cry. The room fell quiet. Afterward, Spencer's son lit a cigarette, leaning against the headboard. The deep frown on his face finally relaxed as he exhaled a cloud of smoke, looking utterly content. Jessica giggled, pulling the sheet up to cover herself as she rested her head on his lap. Spencer's free hand stroked her hair. After a few more drags of his cigarette, he spoke, his voice laced with satisfaction. "Jess, how's that thing I asked you to do coming along?" At the mention of it, Jessica's expression darkened. She bit her lip, feigning annoyance. "I was in a good mood until you brought that up. My old classmate changed his number after graduation. I haven't been able to get in touch with him." "What?" The news jolted Spencer awake. He forgot about his cigarette, stubbing it out in the ashtray and sitting up straight. "Is there any other way to contact him? This needs to happen fast, Jess. I've already told my father and the board." Seeing Spencer's clear anxiety, as if he were about to lose his temper, Jessica quickly reassured him. Don't worry. I'll find another classmate and get his new contact information." Spencer let out a breath of relief. "You need to handle this as soon as possible," he urged. "If we can land a contract from Zenith Corp for the second half of the year, even a small one, it will make the Sun family's reputation." Jessica nodded obediently, but her downcast eyes were filled with a growing gloom. Spencer just kept telling her to find Liam, but he had no idea how difficult that was. She had tried to get into that gala, thinking she could just run into Liam, but she'd been stopped by two security guards at the elevator. They'd said the top floor was booked by the Vance family, and no one was allowed up without an invitation. She tried to say she was just dropping something off, but they wouldn't budge. And with all the news she'd been seeing lately, it was obvious something big was happening in the upper echelons. She was completely out of the loop and somehow Liam had managed to climb right into the middle of it. Spencer was anxious, but she was desperate. What could she do if she couldn't even get in front of Liam? Jessica bit her lip, unable to accept it. In just over a month, even seeing Liam had become a challenge. She remembered when she didn't even have to call. He would just show up at her door on his own. The torment of this powerlessness was driving her insane. No, she had to find a way. Liam was just one of her pathetic admirers. She was supposed to be the main character. As she was plotting, her phone rang. Jessica quickly got up, and, after giving Spencer an apologetic smile, she took the call in the bathroom. It was her brother. "Sis, have you seen the trending topics? Your ex-boyfriend is on TV." Justin's voice crackled through the phone. Jessica froze. "What? Liam is on a dating show. It's all over the internet. He's getting so much attention. Sis, you have to find a way to contact him. He's about to become a celebrity." Justin's voice was urgent. Jessica's mind went blank. She quickly opened up her social media app and looked at the trending list. Her vision swam. No, how did he end up on a TV show? She bit her lip, watching a replay from the live stream. There was that familiar, handsome face. After all this time, Liam had completely changed. Compared to before, he now had a cool, detached air about him. His good looks were causing a frenzy online, with countless girls drooling over him. Scrolling through the comments, Jessica grew angrier and angrier. That person, that face, they were supposed to belong to her. But now, sis, Liam's a celebrity now. He must have a lot of money. Justin's voice cut through her thoughts. Mom and Dad said you have to find a way to win him back. Jessica snapped back to reality. She gritted her teeth, her voice firm. Of course. Tell Mom and Dad I'll find a way to make him come back to me. She hung up and began scrolling through the photos on her phone. She suddenly remembered all the gifts Liam had given her to win her over. She couldn't contact him directly, but this was the age of the internet. If she posted pictures of those things online, surely Liam would see them and remember all the moments they had shared. Then, no matter how bad their fight had been, he would definitely come back. With that thought, she opened her Instagram account. Under the username Factory Guys Girl, she posted a new photo. A clear day for cleaning out my closet. Found so many memories. Do you remember these moments? The picture was of a handmade bracelet Liam had given her, next to a glass jar filled with 520 tiny, folded paper stars. Isabelle, why is Liam on a TV show? At Hamilton Industries Logistics, Isabelle had just finished with work when she got a call from her youngest sister, Noelle. She paused. He's on a show? Yes. It's all over the internet. Isabelle, didn't Dad kick him out? Isabelle didn't answer, silently staring at the trending topics on her phone. Noelle's voice came again, this time more hesitant. Sis, that time he hit Jason. Did he ever apologize? No, I can't get in touch with him. At the mention of it, Isabelle closed her eyes, a wave of sadness washing over her. A moment later, she opened them again, her tone now tinged with anger. Dad was right. He's an ungrateful snake who only remembers grudges, not kindness. Dad's not wrong. Our family raised him for so many years, and not only did he frame Jason, he beat him up. Noelle's voice became more urgent. Isabelle, why don't you pull some strings and get me on that show? Then I can confront him in person. Noelle was getting desperate. She had always been passionate about acting, dreaming of becoming a top-tier actress with an entourage catering to her every need. Liam had always known this. So, ever since she graduated, he had helped her find connections to get into the entertainment industry. But after 3 years of trying, she was still a B-list actress at best, only landing minor roles. She had always thought it was her own fault. But now, seeing Liam become an overnight sensation, she realized the truth. It wasn't her fault at all. It was probably because Liam knew he wasn't a real Hamilton, so he had never truly cared about helping his adoptive sister's career. That was why she was so anxious and angry. This was a huge amount of publicity, and she had to find a way to get a piece of it. Besides, she was Liam's adoptive sister. No matter what, if she appeared on the show, Liam's true colors would be exposed for everyone to see. Her words seemed to spark an idea in Isabelle's mind. It was a brilliant plan. Isabelle's eyes lit up. You're right. Noelle, you can go on the show and expose everything he's done. I bet under the pressure of public opinion, he'll have no choice but to apologize to Jason. Exactly. Noelle agreed wholeheartedly. Then I'll leave it to you, big sis. I'll adjust my schedule on my end. Done, Isabelle said. She hung up and immediately contacted the show's production office. The Hamiltons were still a notable family in New York City. After she explained her intentions, the person on the other end quickly agreed to connect her with director Zhang. Soon, she was on the phone with Brandon Zhang. Isabelle got straight to the point. Director Zhang, my sister would also like to participate in your show. I was hoping you could make it happen. You don't need to worry about the entry fee or anything like that. The 4 men, 3 women setup was already a gimmick. Brandon had intended to bring in another female guest later, but he hadn't planned on it being a Hamilton. Carl Sawyer had given him a brief rundown of the situation with Liam. He didn't understand all the business drama, but he wasn't about to stab his friend's friend in the back. The Hamiltons were. The show's popularity was already skyrocketing. He didn't need to create unnecessary trouble for himself. Brandon thought for a moment and politely refused. We have enough contestants for now. If we need to add more people later, you'll be the first person I notify, Miss Hamilton. Please be patient. He gave her a very official-sounding reply and, to avoid any further entanglement, hung up. Hearing the dial tone, Isabelle's face went pale. She had only been in her new position for a few days. Although she had recently secured the Zenith Corps contract, and the companies that had been friendly with the Hamiltons were still treating them as usual, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Twice now, she had made well-prepared offers, even at a loss to her own company, to get people to help her retaliate against Liam, and both times she had been rejected without hesitation. Had the Hamiltons done something wrong? No. Isabelle quickly shook her head. The Hamilton family had never done anything unethical. Their refusal was their problem. It probably just meant they were on good terms with Liam. Brandon Jung was likely one of Liam's connections too. Otherwise, how could a complete unknown like Liam get on a show like this so easily? With that thought, Isabelle's expression softened. Although Brandon had refused, his tone hadn't been completely final. She realized it was likely a negotiation tactic. She immediately instructed her assistant to transfer $150,000 from the company's discretionary fund. The money was ready. Now, she just had to wait for Brandon Jung's call. On the island, Julian and Hector had started to prepare food. Everyone had arrived early in the morning and was hungry. Fortunately, the production team had left them a decent supply of basics, so they didn't have to worry about starting a fire. However, the food options were limited to instant ramen, eggs, and canned goods, a stark contrast to their usual lifestyles. But they weren't here for the fine dining, so it was acceptable. Soon, Julian had cooked 3 bowls of ramen, adding a fried egg to each, and placed them in front of the 3 women. Among the contestants, he was clearly the most capable. His actions earned him praise from the live chat viewers. However, looking at the simple bowls of ramen, Misty and Gia's faces showed a clear reluctance. Of course, they had come here with flawless makeup, and eating instant ramen on camera? It was beneath them. Besides, ramen was so greasy. What if it stained their clothes? And slurping noodles in front of a live audience? It was embarrassing. They exchanged a look, neither one moving to pick up their chopsticks. This made Julian's face fall. He had worked hard to cook for them, carefully opening each package, and they weren't even going to eat? Just as Julian was about to say something, Sienna picked up her bowl. Without her giant bear, her full figure was on display. It was an impressive sight. Hector and Milo's eyes practically popped out of their heads. Julian's eyes lit up too. As expected of the goddess, he had his eye on. She wasn't picky at all. He felt a surge of pride. But before he could fully enjoy the moment, he saw Sienna carry her bowl over to Liam. Big brother, don't sleep anymore. I saw you eating all that fruit earlier. You must be starving. Have some ramen to fill your stomach. Liam, who had just been dozing off, was jolted awake by the smell of ramen. The fruit hadn't been nearly enough to satisfy his hunger. He was genuinely starving. But just as he was about to gratefully accept the bowl, he felt several murderous glares on him. Liam looked up. His gaze fell on Sienna's innocent, smiling face, and a shiver ran down his spine. This little sister was trying to get him killed. He swallowed hard and loudly refused. Thanks, but I'm not hungry. The live chat immediately started scrolling again. Commenter, eat it. For the love of God, just eat it. Commenter, what's the worst that could happen? It's ramen with an egg. Commenter, oh man, I can't take it. Factory guy, what are you afraid of? It's not like they can actually kill you. Commenter, yeah, you're all on an island. No one is better than anyone else here. Factory guy, you gotta seize this opportunity. In the control room, Brandon saw that the viewers were clearly not satisfied. He scowled. Sienna was being so proactive. He couldn't let such a great opportunity for drama go to waste. He immediately called a staffer. Quick, get a message to Liam. Tell him it's from me. If he accepts Sienna's offer, I'll give him a bonus. On the island, the rejected Sienna didn't seem angry at all. She bent down and placed a bowl on the ground near him. The motion and the resulting view was a direct assault on Liam's senses. Damn, aren't those heavy? Well, big brother, I'll just leave it here for you then. Make sure you eat it later, okay? Sienna winked playfully, took another lick of her lollipop, and ran back to grab her bear, settling down on a tree stump near Liam. Julian, thank you for the hard work, but I'm not very hungry. You should eat first. Hector, you worked hard too. I'm not hungry either. You have it. Misty and Gia seized the opportunity to also offer their ramen to the men. The two guys' faces fell, but at this point, they couldn't really say anything. They just sat down and started eating. Seeing that everyone else was eating, Milo became frantic. Hey guys, what about mine?